I must open the show, ladies and gentlemen, with an apology and a note of appreciation for my guy Trey, because he pointed something out to me, and I just blew it yesterday. I just blew it. I demand better of myself.
Listen,
and I blew it.
You can't do everything. That's what the Armada is for, okay? To help us to pick up the slack, to think of some things every once in a while that we don't think of. That's what they're for. That makes them a part of the show.
It is. Listen, the Rob Brown Armada is arguably the single most important part of this show. Without you guys, there would be no me. But I still expect greatness out of myself. I don't have the red sequin jacket hanging on the wall for decoration. That's because I demand excellence out of myself, out of the show, so that we can rock that jacket and pick up more hardware in the future. I demand it. And then my guy Trey hit me up on Twitter this morning and pointed out to me and this is going to sound like a joke, and it's not. The biggest regret of 2023 through at least March 3rd. Yesterday, we had Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast join us on the radio broadcast, and we had a hashtag battle. That hashtag battle was, are you team hashtag Derek Carolina, or are you team hashtag no used cars? Well, we put that up for a poll on the Twitter page yesterday, and suffice to say, I got my ass handed to me in that poll. And there's a couple more hours if you would like to go on there and bury me further. You're certainly welcome to do it.
You can push on that knife. Just push it. Just push that knife.
Push it good?
No.
Oh, okay. We have 1 hour left for you to go to the Twitter page at twitter.com/thefanupstate and vote on that poll. I said hashtag Derek Carolina or hashtag no used cars. And with an hour left to go, as we rapidly approach 200 votes, it is 85+% hashtag no used cars.
Now, you could say, like most polls, that maybe it's skewed one way or another because Rashad did share it.
He did.
With all of his guys.
He did.
And it looks like the majority of them are on mine and Rashad's side and not on yours.
But ladies and gentlemen.
Could you never say that again after the results of the poll? That thing that you just said? Could you just never, ever?
Not now that I know how much it ticks you off.
Oh, I'm not the only one that bothers.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But ladies and gentlemen, being wrong online is something that I am very experienced with. Being wrong online is not something that bothers me. It is something else. That is the biggest regret that I have in sports so far in 2023. The biggest regret I have is that after we did that, I then hosted a segment where I tried to give you the pros and the cons of hashtag Derek Carolina. All right? I laid out that he fits in well with Frank Reich's system, a system that John Gruden also operated under, and a system in which Derek Carr had his best seasons in. I pointed out the fact that after John Gruden was dismissed from the Raiders due to the sexist, racist, homophobic, misogynist comments in his emails, that Derek Carr, and by the way, also the loss of Henry Ruggs, his probably second best wide receiver on the team, he still dragged the hunk of carcass that was the Raiders that season into the playoffs. And I also listed the cons of Derek Carr. He is 32. He's certainly on the downslide of his prime, in his prime, but on the downslide of it, etc. A guy that probably isn't super jacked about the idea of being a bridge quarterback. A guy that's not super jacked about having a developmental quarterback behind him. And so one injury the wrong day at the wrong time puts him in a situation to see his starting job go away forever. And I did the whole list of pros and cons. And Trey pointed out to me that I could have entitled that segment, Lonzo, the Carfax Report. You got to be kidding me.
In your defense, that's giving free advertising to a company. So that's
in my defense, that is the name of that segment. The Carfax was the name. These are the Carfax. Carrrfacts. These are the Carfax. It was right there, and I blew it.
I just have to say, in all the time that Rashad has been coming on this program, that is probably one of my favorite moments so far. That and the Jim Bob Cooter.
Jim Bob Cooter. Sorry, Indianapolis Colt Jim Bob Cooter.
That's how Rashad would say it.
That's how I'm saying it now.
No.
Forget him.
No.
Forget Jim Bob Cooter. He wants to be a Colt. He can be Jim Bob Cooter. He don't get the Jim Bob Cooter treatment no more. All right. So I issue the most heartfelt of apologies to all of you. You should expect excellence. You should demand excellence from me. And by missing Carfax, which was right there in front of me, I have let you all down. And for that, I sincerely, genuinely, thoroughly, and humbly apologize to you.
The Panther Nation podcast has just liked your tweet. So they also agree.
Yes, because it is perfect. It was right there.
Hey, Trey.
Perfect.
You're not getting any money, man. But a shout
Trey,
out.
you come find me at a baseball game, I'll buy you a beer. You come find me at a baseball game, I'll buy you a beer. I owe you. You know why? Because Trey is expecting me to be held to a higher standard here.
Trey was just contributing. He was being a part of the program, which is what we want people to do.
He was, but he was doing it because he's like, I know Rob missed this, and this is exactly what we expect and they demand out of the Rob Brown show.
No. Here. Let me do what I do. I'm going to take the blame for this.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
I should have come up with this. I don't know why I didn't do it, and I apologize. Making a lot of mistakes lately. I should be reprimanded.
No, it's on me. Carfax. His name's Derek Carr, and I gave you the facts. Carfax. It's right there. In fact, if even setting up that segment, I said you do pros and cons so that you can get to the facts of the decision you have to make. I said it, and then didn't take the last step.
You know, when you look at those commercials and they do the side-by-side comparison, the busted up one, that's Derek Carr. That's why he does not need to be here.
That's fine. We can have discussion one more time again about heads Carolina, tails not.
Trade it all.
That's
Get
Jody
CJ
Messina,
Stroud.
We can have that conversation. We will have.
Is that country? I don't know. Just guessing.
It is. Not only is it country, Joe D. Messina, but she's
is that all? So it's not a dude.
It's Joe D.
Okay, because you said Joe, and I thought it was a guy.
You've heard that song.
What song?
Heads Carolina, tails California.
Thankfully, I don't believe I have.
Someplace.
I don't want to hear it now either.
Well, you're going to after the show. Listen, I said facts. The segment was about a guy named Carr. How did I miss it? All right, we got more stuff to talk about.
By the way,
things to get
come at Rob on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and tell him how disappointed you are in him and his inability to come up with
Lonzo.
Yeah.
People tell me how disappointed they are in me every day.
and while you're looking at us, as you should, you might see that there are guests in the studio. You might see that.
There are. I got my guys Alex and Phoenix in here hanging out. If you're watching the stream, you see them in the background. They are, I don't know, what, aspiring sports journalists? Is that what we're going with? Let's go with that. How old are you guys? How old are y'all? 13 and 14?
They were till after, 10 minutes ago they were. And then they had to deal with 10 minutes of this. And it's just.
It'll age any man.
It will.
We're just out here corrupting.
That's where all
America's
this came
youth.
from. Yeah. It wasn't
Lonzo,
like that.
Lonzo was 26 when he started working with me.
That was 3 years ago or 2 years ago, something like that.
Coming up on today's show, ladies and gentlemen, we got to get some college shooty hoops in here. Why? Because the majority of teams around the country have just a few regular season contests left. We are, about a week away from the beginning of conference tournaments. So now it is down to the nitty gritty. Clemson has left themselves a road to hoe if they wish to make it. Not Ho You Fat. That's a whole different thing. But they've left themselves some work to do.
He's a great player, by the way.
Phenomenal player.
Yes.
Ho You Fat. We have got to get into that just a little bit. I'll tell you kind of where they stand. What is the discussion about Jalen Carter, right? Jalen Carter, of course, projected top overall pick, potential top 3 overall pick, most likely, top 5 overall pick, definitively. But then, day and a half ago, a warrant came out for Jalen Carter's arrest down in Athens, Georgia. Jalen Carter left Indianapolis, flew to Athens, turned himself in, posted bail, flew right back to Indianapolis, and is back at the combine going through the interview process and the workouts and all of that. But there's been multiple reports that there are GMs having conversations about where Jalen Carter should go. Now, whether or not they will ever hit the line that would be constituted as collusion to prevent Jalen Carter from spiking in the draft, that's going to be a hard charge to prove. But we are starting to get a bit of a better idea about where Jalen might go, and it directly impacts the Carolina Panthers. And I'm going to tell you why coming up later on in the radio broadcast. All of the major college football conference commissioners have come to an agreement on something. I'm going to give you just a second to collect all the parts of your brain that just exploded, pack them back in. All of the major college football conference commissioners have agreed on something. What is that something? I'm going to tell you coming up later in the show. And it ties in with the story we have about Major League Baseball as well. So we got that coming for you. What is the updated conversation about where the Bears, where are the Bears going to go with the number 1 pick? We still have no idea, but we are starting to get some hints out of Indianapolis. We'll run over those coming up in a little while as well. And to wrap up the show, dun dun. Ordinarily, it's Friday, and around 11:20, we would do Fanboy Friday. Today, because it's my show and I want to, and I don't pull that card often, only like once a hour. Yes, we are going to get into the Alex Murdaugh. I have not talked about the trial for 6 weeks, Lonzo, but we got a verdict last night.
Well, the thing is, it could fall. You shouldn't consider it a fanboy thing, but it has captured the nation, and
100%.
Everyone has been.
You know what I called it last night? South Carolina's Tiger King.
No, it's worse than that. But yeah,
dramatically, because 2 people are dead.
Well, there was someone dead in Tiger King,
That's
but
true.
they never found because he got ate by a tiger.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Totally Carol Baskins fed her husband to a tiger, though, right? Like that totally happened.
I only made it like an episode and a half, so it was too much for me.
I made it I made it through the entire season twice.
It was show prep for you, and I didn't need to watch it since you did.
The Murdaugh trial has come to its conclusion. We will now have conversations about the potential for appeals, potential for a mistrial, potential for, I don't think you're going to get a mistrial, but potential for a retrial, another trial down the line. I am not a legal expert. I did not go to law school, nor did I stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, but I will tell you that after multiple hours of trial coverage pretty much every day for the past 4 weeks, I have some thoughts.
And the only thing I can add, and we can get into the story if we have time, is how one of the defense attorneys once asked me if I was on crack.
Were you on crack?
I've never been on crack.
Okay.
No, I am drug free. You know that.
Sir, this is a cross-examination. You are required to answer the questions.
Yeah. So anyway, I will give you that experience about, so every time I see this guy, that's all I can think of.
Gentlemen, which brings me to my next point. Don't do crack.
Thank you, LT.
You boys know what movie that is?
Come on. It's just gonna make you. It's just gonna make you feel old. It's from The Water Boy.
The Water Boy.
Yeah.
Have you seen The Water Boy? I've heard. Oh God.
It's okay, man. You know, I've been where you're getting to now. I've been old for a while, so you're finally reaching that.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Oh God.
It's like, remember
You
that
two
old
have homework,
movie?
Watch The Waterboy. That's your cost of admission for sitting in today. That's fair. That you understand that doesn't benefit me though. I need to know the next generation is being raised correctly. Your job is to watch The Waterboy. They have my permission.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
You don't know if they have their parents' permission.
They do
though,
now.
so
I just gave them.
I
just gave them permission.
That's not how that works.
Works for me. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, we will get into the discussion about where that number one pick from Chicago might go, because outside of free agency, that's the next domino to fall. Rashad said something yesterday that got me intrigued during our interview, and we didn't get a chance to kind of dive in and talk about it. So when we come back, I'm going to tell you what it was Rashad said that got me thinking and how that connects with the conversations we're seeing about Chicago's number one overall pick. That's next on The Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate.
It's not that bad, Trey. Watching The Princess Bride is more important than watching The Waterboy. Unless you're a sports fan. If you're a sports fan, you probably should watch The Waterboy.
Everyone should watch Waterboy. You do not have to be a sports fan.
When you're older, depending on what your parental guidance are. Yeah, also you got to throw in some Caddyshack. Also, depending on age, there are some must sees. Yes. Also, depending on age.
You got to pick one: Caddyshack or Waterboy.
I'm gonna go with Waterboy, but I it's all right. You're a golf guy. I'm a football guy. What can I say? Okay, all right.
I will be right back, fellas. You got any questions?
You can also ask me questions. Yeah, because I am here. I'm like sitting over here. And at any point during the show while we're doing it, if you want to walk around and look, I mean, this is kind of boring, but if you want to see what I'm doing, you absolutely can do that. It's only like 5-6 screens, It's just yeah. So right now I am picking the music. You guys can't hear the music because when the microphones go on in the studio, the speakers go dead. That way you don't get feedback from the speakers through the microphones. Yes, Goonies is a must-see too. I'm not going to ask them if they've seen that though. See, it's generational. I haven't seen that, so but I guarantee you that Rob probably has.
What?
Have you seen Daddy's Home?
That is the one with Mark Wahlberg in it. Mackie Mac. Wasn't he in the second one, right? Yeah. Actually, I've not seen it. But don't you try to tell me it's in class with the Waterboy. It's just not. It doesn't who? I will put it on the list.
See, now we're learning levels of importance. Skateboarding is
Top tier.
yeah.
So we need to add it.
I'm pretty sure I tried to get Phoenix to sit down with me and watch Major League.
Major
Yes,
League, Ricky
yes.
Wild Thing Vaughn. If you are drafting, we did this on the show years ago. We might do it again one day. We did this with a bunch of sports. Draft your whatever sport team only from movie characters, right? And you can use movies about real players, but you have to take the movie portrayal of them. And I would go Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn's got to be a top 5 pick. Got to be a top 5 pick. My man brought the high heat, long as he's got the glasses. You guys haven't watched Major League yet. Are y'all like baseball? A little bit?
Don't say you like it just because he asked you the question. If you don't like it, it's
I
fine.
like basketball.
There you go.
That's my man.
I'm guessing he might like NASCAR just by the hat,
My
maybe
mother
possibly.
asked if you guys are more amused or scared by me. All right, we'll take it.
You can tell her I'm scared though.
Lonzo has been for a year and a half now.
It's been longer than that, hasn't it? It's been 2 years.
Has it been 2 years?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess it was shortly. Yeah, you're right.
Around Christmas, it was
Yeah,
2 years.
that's right. That's it. Mel Gibson is in Daddy's Home too. That's right. Steven wants to know if you guys have seen the Goonies.
I think
Hey, you guys. Goonies never say die. Trey says not seeing The Waterboy might be worse than not seeing The Princess Bride. Have you seen The Princess Bride?
It's okay. It's not for everybody.
Princess
dude.
Bride
Yeah,
is for
it's
everybody.
Not. It's not.
There is no part of that. Princess Bride is it might be the perfect movie. It might be the perfect movie.
Tim still hasn't seen it, so yeah, I know. I keep
I'll look at
saying
Triple H there.
we'll. Yeah, I was worried
Yeah.
because there's no glass here anymore.
Not yet, but it is on my watch list. I've heard. Yeah, that good? Okay. All right. Any questions after one segment in the books? Okay. Fire away, ask. That's why you're here.
Stop asking them. You're intimidating them.
That's what I'm here for.
You got questions?
Raise your hand if you have a question. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. So I've told you a couple of times that trying to project what ends up happening for the Carolina Panthers in the draft as of today is effectively an exercise in futility. It's just, frankly, impossible because there are a ton of dominoes that must fall between now and April 27th when the draft goes live, round 1 from Kansas City. We have to know a bunch of things. We have to know if Lamar and Aaron are on the trade block or not. We have to know where the 5 free agent quarterbacks considered worth an investment or not might end up. Those being Carr, Garoppolo, and Wentz as free agents. And then, of course, Rodgers and Jackson as potential trade targets. Once those 5 are off the board, we have to find out where. One of the big things that could potentially, maybe, theoretically might be a hindrance to the Carolina Panthers is the fact that there are likely as many as 5 teams ahead of them that are looking at quarterbacks. We know that the Texans are at 2. We know the Colts are at 4. And then we know the Raiders, the Lions, and the Falcons are. Now, the Falcons have said that if worst comes to worst, they would be fine rolling out Desmond Ridder. And of course they would because they're the Atlanta Falcons, LOL. But we'll come back to that later on. Regardless of how it plays out, there are 5 teams looking, at least considering a quarterback, before the Panthers sitting there at 9. So we got to see what free agents might end up with those 5 teams, if any of them, because there are certainly more teams after 9 that are looking quarterback as well. There are, depending on how you look at this, as many as a dozen teams in the league that would be looking for, at the very least, a developmental quarterback to add into their rotation. And then you got to keep in mind, if Baltimore trades away Lamar Jackson, they'll be looking for a new quarterback. If Aaron Rodgers is done in Green Bay, while Jordan Love may or may not be the guy that rolls into that spot, they may be looking for a developmental quarterback to stick behind him or threaten his starting job. We don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. So all those dominoes have to fall. The next domino that has to fall is going to be Chicago in the number 1 pick. And not just whether or not they trade it, but where they trade it to, right? Chicago wants as many resources as they can get while maximizing the efficiency of whatever number 1 pick that they get. And this is where the situation involving Georgia's defensive tackle, who was just sent back down to Georgia to face an arrest, to post bail and come back to the combine. Where does Jalen Carter end up? And I think this could end up being a bit of a hindrance for the Panthers, and here's why. Jalen Carter is considered the best of a trio of defensive players that are set to be drafted, likely in the top 7, 8 picks of the NFL draft. You've got Will Anderson Jr., the edge rusher out of Bama. You've got Devin Witherspoon, a cornerback out of Illinois. And you've got Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle from Texas. There's a few other guys that might be threats in there. Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech is considered one of them as well. Jalen Carter is considered by many to be the best of that group. Either him or Will Anderson Jr., but many people have Jalen Carter ranked as the number 1 defensive player on the board. So why does this matter for the Carolina Panthers? The Chicago Bears will look to trade back, but they don't want to trade so far back that they end up in a spot where they can't grab one of those defensive players off the board. Which is why I've said, I absolutely think Chicago, if they have not already, will be on the phone with the Houston Texans saying, hey, you've got a preference between Stroud and Young. And there's only one way to guarantee that you get that guy, and it's to trade up with us to 1. And they'll try to trade back to number 2. Is it because they care about the well-being, happiness, and draft satisfaction of the Houston Texans? Hell no. It's because they can get a haul out of Houston and then trade back again from 2. If they go to 2, now they can call Indianapolis, who is sitting at 4, and go, hey, look, there's going to be a bunch of teams who are interested in getting to this spot. There's only one of the top 2 considered quarterbacks still on the board. If you want one of them, you've got to jump from 4 to 2. And they jump from 4 to 2. Now Chicago, whether they straight up trade with Indy on day 1 or they go Houston, then Indy, and stockpile picks, at that point, now Chicago's sitting at number 4. Now, this might not be the worst thing in the world for the Carolina Panthers. Why? Because Arizona's not taking a quarterback. They might trade out from number 3, but that trade is at least on the table for the Carolina Panthers. But if Arizona trades back, they are in a similar boat to Chicago. They're going to be looking to trade back into that 5, 6, 7 range. Into that Raiders, Lions, Falcons range, right? Hey, if one of you 3 want either Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, you have to come up to us now. It's not an option, right? Because if you stay where you are, there's only 2 guys left there. And the Seattle Seahawks at number 5 are very interested as well, right? Arizona and at the 4 spot now, Chicago, neither looking for a quarterback, both possibly looking to trade back. The problem is, if they have their hearts set on defensive players, and if the character concerns of Jalen Carter just became too much of a burden to bear, they might be less interested in trading back. Or if they are willing to trade back, the haul that they're going to be looking for to do so has just escalated, right? And now Carolina, to get to 3 or 4 or 5, is going to have to pay a price similar to what they would have had to pay to get to 2 or 3. With one less excellent defensive player on the board. If he is, they may not, NFL teams, may not drop Jalen Carter down that far. Those conversations are currently ongoing at the combine. GMs having discussions. How do you feel? 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 There are some GMs saying that Jalen Carter could fall as far as midway down in the first round because no team wants to get connected with this.
I was going to say, doesn't it come down to, I think, the talent of the player versus the look for the league? I think the look for the league, which they've had some bad looks in the past, this is pretty publicized now. I think he has to drop for that reason, because if a team takes a chance on, it wouldn't shock me if he didn't drop to like third round or something like that, because you can take him under the radar at a lower round, maybe on an untelevised round or something when people have stopped watching, and then you don't have to worry about as much of a backlash. If he goes in the first round, whoever takes him, you're going to have to deal with a lot of bad press. Is he good enough to get past the bad press? And how do you know, and no one knows, what's going to happen as far as, I mean, he's been arrested. Will the allegations be worse than what we know now?
Give me my thought on that. There is a direct ratio, Lonzo, between talent and tolerance, right? The more talent you have, the more tolerance leagues will have for your BS. The better a player you are, the more tolerated your indiscretions are. For instance, Ray Lewis killed a dude, allegedly. But then what happened? Nothing. Why not? Because Ray Lewis is one of the best linebackers to ever play in the National Football League. If Ray Lewis was a third-string linebacker who played special teams primarily, you think what happened with Ray Lewis would have been tolerated? Nuh-uh. Because in order to tolerate the players that have the most immense amounts of talent, they have to bringeth the smackdown on the guys who don't, so that they can go, look, we're hard on players, right? If a player gets into legal trouble, we're hard on them. Look at this guy. Don't look at Ray Lewis. Don't look at Ray Lewis. Look over here at this guy. Jalen Carter is, if he's not the best, the second best defensive player in this draft, and Jalen Carter is going to have some level of tolerance unless the NFL just decides it's just too bad and they effectively suspend him for a year by making him ineligible. But I can't imagine that's going to be the case.
This is a different time than it was during Ray Lewis, and that was a while ago, believe it or not. That was a pretty good while ago.
Oh, yeah.
Now you have a bunch of people on the internet, on social media, that are going to go and dig up every possible thing that they can find when someone is under scrutiny. And I don't think Ray Lewis had to deal with that, with the kind of world that we're living in right now. And should he be scrutinized? Absolutely. Should his draft stock drop? Yes, it should. It was a mistake, and sometimes you make mistakes, and this mistake cost someone their life.
The Ray Lewis trial was in 2000.
Right.
The Ray Lewis trial was 23 years.
You're already filling your age today, and that's why I had to point that out. It seems recent to you, but it's
Alex
not.
and Phoenix, you guys are fired. I already felt you're not fired. You don't work here.
Plus, he couldn't really.
Plus, I don't even.
Yeah, he can't.
I can't fire
he can't do that. So,
you're not wrong. There was no. I mean, there was.
You know, you're gonna be talking about the Murdaugh trial later on.
Correct.
I think because of the 5,000 CSIs on TV and all those kind of things, true crime has become a thing that people are really into. So something like this happens, and for some reason, people latch onto it, and they will bring up, find things that other people haven't found or have tried to sweep under the rug. I think there's so much more scrutiny now. And there should be, by the way.
You got through all of that.
And there should be. Come on, man.
With the background.
Come on.
Law and Order theme going.
You kind of off in some places, though.
All right, you're right. The Ray Lewis thing, different era. If that same situation played out in the age of social media, and as you pointed out, the Murdaugh trial was solved by what? Technology, right? It was tech. If Murdaugh did this in 2000, he's walking today. If Murdaugh did not get, we're going to talk about this more in depth.
I just want to point this out real quick. Video changes everything. If a video surfaces of this race that happened before the draft,
you're exactly right.
Yes.
And this is, again, there's an open investigation. One of the two things that I think ended up getting Alec Murdaugh convicted was not just the video that placed him at the kennel minutes before the murder after months and months and months of saying that he was not there and being proven a liar. But on top of that, it was tracking the movement of his cell phone, right? It was a 380 whatever steps he took after the time of the murder that he could not explain why, when he had not done that in the days or weeks leading up to that night he walked that much that quickly and couldn't explain why that did. So if they can say track the movements of both vehicles, right? Because your phone, if you allow it, and let's be real, tinfoil cap, probably even if you don't, is constantly pinging off of GPS satellites and telling it down to the foot where you are. Down to the foot where you are. And so if they can get the info from both of these vehicles that were running around racing, and they find out that at the time that one cell phone came to a crashing stop, the other one was next to it, behind it, etc., bang, they've got him leaving the scene of an accident involving a fatality, which I don't know in Georgia, but in Florida, that's an automatic felony charge.
Well, and the thing is, with the Murdaugh trial, this is the first time that I think, has been so public, that technology being used.
Oh, yeah.
So now more people are going to do that. And if you can put them side by side, he's
100%.
in worse trouble than he already is.
So with all of that being said, what happens with Jalen Carter is going to be interesting, because on one hand, we don't have all the details yet. And whether we ever do, who knows? We'll find out. In Florida, we would, because immediately when records go into the state halls, they're immediately sunshine law, FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. You can call Florida the minute somebody gets arrested and within seconds have that arrest report sent to your email, right? I don't know if that's the case in Georgia. We'll find out. Here's what I'll say. Jalen Carter is immensely talented, is at the very worst top 5 pick, at the very best number 1 overall. If Chicago decides not to trade that number 1 pick, Carter would have been a very likely prospect to be taken at that spot. But again, we'll see what happens with the NFL. All of that being said, if Carter is indeed going to go sinking down the draft order because teams don't want to pin that name on their franchise's legacy, there's one less great defensive player inside of that top 9, which means that Chicago, Arizona, Indianapolis will be, or excuse me, Chicago, Arizona, Seattle would be much less interested in trading back to 9. Because if those 4 quarterbacks, Young, Stroud, Levis, Richardson, all come off the board early, there are 4 to 5 picks ahead of number 9 where those players we mentioned, Anderson, Young, Carter, Witherspoon, Wilson, Bijan Robinson, the running back out of Texas, Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver out of TCU, all projected top 10 guys. There are 5 or 6 picks standing between Carolina and the number 1 overall that will not have a quarterback available for them, which means that these top 10 guys are coming off the board, and every position that Chicago or Arizona drops back, it becomes that much less likely that they can grab one of their favorites, right? So Carolina either has one of 2 things happens. Either A, nobody wants to trade, right? Like, it's all well, fine, and dandy if the Panthers want to trade up in the first round. That's great. They should. But it takes 2 to tango, right? You go to the dance and you bring your dance card and you got your blue suede shoes on and you're ready to cut a rug. That means dance, youngins. And then you go and you start asking young ladies to dance and they say, no, no, no. It doesn't matter how bad you want to dance. You can dance if you want to. But if ain't nobody dancing with you, that floor is a lonely place.
I was waiting for you to say you could leave your friends behind. But anyway.
Don't dance. They don't
I
work safety dance.
Come on, stop. I mean, that's pre you.
Yeah.
I mean, the first radio station I worked at was an independent radio station. And the owner said, I will never sell. And then he sold. And his reasoning was they put something on my desk that I couldn't say no
Would
to.
you say it was an offer they couldn't refuse?
Absolutely. And the Panthers had that kind of draft capital that they can put on the table to the Chicago Bears, trade up, take CJ Stroud, and then history is made.
See, you and I, Alonzo, are both aware of one of the most iconic Americans of all time. There was a billionaire philanthropist by the name of Ted DiBiase a number of years ago. And Ted DiBiase had a quote that lives on in the annals of history when he once said, "Everybody's got a price." That's the $1 million man for the youngsters. Everybody's got a price, and this is correct. But, Lonzo, for some people, the price is higher than it is for others, right? I am probably willing to do more for less than, say, Jim Rome is in this job, right? Here's the thing. Chicago, if you're Carolina, you could call and go, we'll switch with you to 9, and we'll give you 2 seconds, a third, a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth.
But here's the thing. Chicago can drop to 9 by switching with Carolina. Then they can jump back up because they have their own draft capital plus all the picks that they just got from Carolina, and they can jump back up a couple spots with someone else that's willing to trade down.
Who else is willing to trade down? See, because here's the thing.
Somebody.
Here's the thing. If you're Chicago, you can say that is a possibility. But Chicago's not going to, if that's the thought, they're not going to make that move unless they already know that they can trade up, right? Like I said, because you want to dance, it doesn't matter how good the offer is. It doesn't mean anybody's going to want to dance with you, right? And then you're dancing with your set. Okay, I'm not doing any more songs about dancing.
Both those references, 80s references, I believe. Yeah.
The problem is not that Carolina can't give the biggest haul to move to 1. The problem is you got to think about what it costs Chicago to move from 1 to 9. Yes, it benefits them by getting a haul of picks out of Carolina. The flip side is names like Anderson, Carter, Witherspoon, Wilson, Robinson, Johnston, Murphy. All those guys are gone at 9. Or most of them. There may be 1 or 2 of them left, but most of those guys at 9. So you are not going to get a guy out of the prestige chunk of the draft. You're getting a guy out of the group of really good players in the draft. Is that not worth the investment to move from 1 back to 9? Only Chicago can decide that.
It's absolutely worth the investment because of all those picks they get. Then they can start shoring up some things around their quarterback. They can absolutely do that. They can get some better receivers. They can get some linemen. They've got so many choices after that.
If you do this trade, if you are Chicago or if you're Carolina and you make the trade to Chicago for number 1 overall, it's costing you next year's first-round draft pick.
Well, you know what, Rob? If you're in the Super Bowl because you go up and get CJ Stroud, you don't care about next year's
Ladies and
first-round
gentlemen,
draft pick.
The eternal optimist, the great one, Lonzo. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on hour number 1. What's your thoughts on all this? You've heard us talking about it. You've heard us breaking this whole thing down. What's the play? You mock Carolina general manager? What are you doing right now? If you're Scott Fitter, let us know. 844-326-3663 is the phone number. 844-326-3663. Or text me your answer. It's 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN. We'll read them on the air. I'm Rob. He is Lonzo. This is the Fan Upstate. All right. Thrilling, right? Beyond exciting. So, we don't get paid to talk. We get paid to prepare ourselves to talk. What I'm doing now, I do for free. What I get paid for is everything we've got to do to be able to come in here and do this. I play in a band too, and I tell people all the time, I don't get paid to play music. I get paid to haul around hundreds of pounds of equipment and practice for hours and hours and hours to then play for 4 hours. The music I play for free, but you got to pay me for the gear, the practice, the hauling it around, the drive time to your bar and back, the fact that I'm not getting to bed till 4 o'clock in the morning. That's what you pay me for. What do you guys think?
Don't you have questions that you're supposed to ask for your school stuff? Don't you have that?
Small business, you know the value of time. Get refunds.com.
I'd be scared to ask Rob questions, dude. When Rob leaves the room, though, you can ask me. So
Go to refunds.com to get started, and in less than 8 minutes, see if your business qualifies for ERC assistance. Your business may be
that's a good dancer, Trey. If you can, don't do that. If you can cut a rug, linoleum, and tile. Look at the video I sent you, by the way.
I am currently.
How'd that dude not die? And then the guy comes out and checks on him like, sorry.
So a few things. Number one, in what world is the referee lighting a guy on fire in a match?
It's indie wrestling. I mean, I guess that happens. I don't know.
Number two, how far did that guy think he could throw that other guy?
Oh, he threw him pretty far.
I'm watching a wrestling clip. This is what Lonzo and I during breaks.
Oh my God.
How far did he think he was going to throw that guy? That table was 15 feet away from the ring.
Yeah, I'd blame the guy who set up the table.
Yeah.
And also the way he threw him. How much is that going to break his fall, that table? Because he threw him.
I mean, at least somewhat more than a concrete floor. And oh, by the way, he's on fire.
And that table's going to slide when he lands on top of it. And it's not going to break because it's not a wooden table. So it probably would have been worse if he landed on the table.
Unless, they freaked out a little bit.
I don't know if you saw this. A couple of weeks ago, though, at an AEW show, they had a table spot and the table flipped over. And you could actually see the drill holes in the bottom where they removed the cross supports.
Yeah.
And drilled holes down the middle of the table to weaken it. I thought that was interesting because, I mean, we all know that they're doing it, but I can't recall ever having actually seen where you can see the like razor cuts in the wood to weaken the structure of it. They still do it.
Cut their foreheads.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're still doing that. On one company, they're still doing that.
It's your boy.
Yeah, still. He needs to stop. They're
Sticking that trash can right behind me, please, or right behind you.
They were talking about that on a podcast I was listening to yesterday. Bully Ray, Bubba Ray, whatever, saying the blood is not necessary. And he's saying that. I mean, it's I don't know that it adds. Did you see the promo of him in the stairwell?
Mm-mm. Oh, yes. Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, listen.
But how many times do you see that?
It looked cool as hell.
How many times do you see that till you go, okay, I've already seen you do this.
I didn't hate it. I actually liked it. It got me more hype for a fight that I really wasn't all that interested in. And
Maybe I'm
after that
too
promo,
old to
like,
have bloodlust anymore. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. If you're in the front row, you get some of that on you. Do you wash your jersey? They got on that jersey right there.
On this one?
Yeah.
Yes. But I also would not wear this jersey to a wrestling
Yeah,
show.
because that would be a bad
By
mistake.
the way, when
especially
AEW comes back, I know who my next cosplay is. Excalibur. Mask, and I'm bringing one.
Oh,
because
no, you
that's-
could pull that off for
I know.
sure.
I know. We're huge wrestling dorks. And that's a solid chunk of the references we make on the show. Wrap it up, hour number 1 of the Rob Brown Show right here On the fan upstate, Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo behind the helm. Here is the theory I have floated. Boiled down to as simple as I can make it. If Jalen Carter's draft stock does indeed tank because of what is happening with his arrest in Georgia, that makes the Panthers spot at number 9 much less valuable and therefore drives the cost of moving up for Carolina. If his draft stock does not come down, then Carolina has a much better chance of being able to trade up without having to make a Mike Ditka, Ricky Williams style trade where the farm gotta go in return for a dude who may or may not be successful. So that's about as simple as I can boil it down. And now I ask you for your response. 844-326-3663 is the phone number. Text us your thoughts on that at 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, and we'll read them on the air. Coming up in the next hour of the radio broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday we told you a little bit about the NFL Players Association report cards that they put out of all the teams after the 2022 NFL season. And I said, I think these are an interesting idea, and I absolutely think that they are going to have an impact on the league sooner rather than later. Lonzo, it took less than a day. Yesterday, the Baltimore Ravens general manager was talking about Lamar Jackson. And he, for whatever reason, decided to take a shot at the Ravens wide receiver core. They were like, what would you need to kind of bolster the team and make it more attractive to Lamar? And he said, I think we need better wide receivers. Well, Rashad Bateman is a wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens. And what did he say back to the GM? It was a shot at those report cards. And I'll tell you what that is coming up in just a little while, because it is nothing shy of hilarious. We'll get into that story. And before I leave you for this hour, I just need you to know that also in Georgia's got a lot going on right now. I saw this story before I came on the air, Alonzo. A woman went to Popeyes. You know me, love that chicken from Popeyes. All right, Louisiana, good. Love me some Popeyes. And one of my favorite things about Popeyes is the biscuits, right? Popeyes biscuits. As far as biscuits go, Popeyes biscuits, hot straight out the window, best in the game, son. Best in the game. A young woman in Georgia went to a Popeyes, got her order. She didn't get her biscuits. And don't get me wrong, Lonzo, it would infuriate me. You know how mad it was? You know how mad she was that she didn't get her biscuits? She drove her SUV through the front of the Popeyes.
Those are some good biscuits.
That's some damn good biscuits. I want anybody to find me a place that got biscuits so good that if you don't get your biscuits, you will crash your car through the restaurant. That's impressive. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Yesterday, the founder, the first owner of the Carolina Panthers, Jerry Richardson, passed away. Jerry Richardson is responsible for NFL football in the Carolinas. But to say he leaves behind a legacy that is anything less than complicated would be a lie. And I'll tell you why, and we'll discuss that next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. That's one done, fellas. 33% of the way home. Yeah, that's what a radio show looks like. 3 hours of it.
He didn't say a good radio show.
I just said our radio show.
Radio show.
Sir, I have won an award. We have
I
won
was
an
going to say
award.
there's a we in there, but yeah.
I know, but you insulted the radio show. I felt like I needed to defend my own honor.
Sorry, I went for the cheap pop.
You did. You really did. And also the local football team sucks. So, end of 2021, Lonzo and I won the South Carolina Broadcasters Association's Sports Talk Radio Show of the Year award, which I have prominently displayed in my office at the house. Last year, because Lonzo and I accept nothing but top marks. I got that jacket to wear to the ceremony because I decided the first year we won, I wore this over the top like black jacket with this white paisley pattern in it. And I decided last year to be even more ostentatious and wear that. Well, we did not make it as a finalist last year. And much like Tom Brady not winning a Super Bowl, I don't accept anything less. So I brought that in and I hung it right there so that every day when I walk into the studio before I start the show, the last thing I see before I push that on-air button is that red jacket. Because in, what is it, August, September, those awards are held?
August.
In August, when those awards roll around, I want to wear that jacket. And so it's my quit screwing around and yeah. Exactly. Correct. You know how before every wrestling match, the champ comes out and he holds the belt up and he's like, "This is my drive." That's it right there. And I will not touch it again until I wear it to go pick up my damn trophy. Our trophy. Because Lonzo does all the actual hard work. He's the Arn Anderson of the group. I'm the Ric Flair.
I've won that award like 8 times or something like that. So it's yeah. You get to go to Columbia and all the people you see on TV, like news and weather and all those people and all the radio stations are all there, and you get to go up. Luckily, we don't have to say anything on the stage, but it's still pretty cool.
Possibilities for their website. They turned to AmericanEagle.com. AmericanEagle.com, we architected Peter Chang's website.
You know, it's funny you should ask that question, Stephen, because yesterday, Rob had never been to Fuddruckers, so we went to Fuddruckers yesterday. And there was actually, you know, I pointed out on the menu, there was a hot dog. You could buy a hot dog. And the second line was with chili. And you know what you had to do? You had to pay extra for the chili, Stephen, because that's how it's supposed to be. So as you can see, normally the show continues having interactions with people on the stream and stuff.
In case you get into this, the absolute best thing that you can do is always be in contact with the people who are listening and watching. Interact. You want to keep your face and voice in front of them constantly so that they won't forget the next time you're on the air to check in. So when we do these streams, we've got our little chat bar over here, and Lonzo and I will interact with these folks even when we go on break. You guys know, I'm not going to ask you any more do you know questions except this one. You know who Ric Flair is. Okay. All right. That one, I'd have told you to leave. That's not true. I wouldn't have done that. I'm not a jerk.
What's his stage name?
You don't need to watch wrestling. It's Ric Flair. He's in the halls of American legend. Woo! The Nature Boy.
I had Charlotte Flair in the studio before. That was a lot of fun. She is. She's not that tall. She's about 6'1", I think. Because at the time, me and the host, this was early on when the station first started, we had her on, and we both are over 6 foot tall, and she was right there in between us, the same height. So she does. That day she wasn't, though. So luckily we didn't look like we were short.
Funny thing is, I work at the airport, we see a lot of people that come through.
Yeah.
A lot of times they come through incognito. Sting came through a while back when they were doing like signing up here, but he no makeup, no nothing. If you didn't know who he was, he'd have walked right by him.
That's my favorite wrestler of all time. I would have recognized him.
Yeah, I recognize him.
Our numero dos of the Rob Brown Show starts now. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Robin the Great One. The Weenus and Pitt Show is on the air. Good to have you guys along for the ride. 844-326-3663. Text us 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-M. We'll read them on the air. Texter said, fast food fury number 2 versus missing Popeye's biscuits. Buddy of mine got a large Diet Coke instead of a regular Coke, went back through the drive-thru line, got to the window, and launched the entire full cup in and drove off. Bo, your friend needs therapy, guy. Your friend because here's what
he
happened.
needs to be cited and arrested. I mean, that's just
That is assault.
Yeah, I mean,
that is assault. Not technically. Is that assault? That's assault, right? Yeah, I'm gonna go with the gentleman behind me who knows this stuff. That's assault. Probably not in his best interest. Ladies and gentlemen, listen. Just listen. Leave the fast food workers alone. All right. They're in the list of egregious fast food errors. I gave you a Diet Coke instead of a regular Coke is not anywhere near the top of the list. All right. Forgetting Popeye's biscuits, that's a problem. But I gave you the wrong Coke, ain't it?
I think.
And he drove away without a Coke that he paid for.
I think he should also be forced to
work at Popeye's
or whatever restaurant it was for at least 6 months.
Fair enough. That actually, I'm not one of the everybody should have to do blank guys, but
It's
everybody should have to
man.
work.
You'll be scared straight after you
Everybody
do that.
should have to work in either the service industry or retail for at least a year before they become adults. Just to show you and the world would be a better place if everybody had to work fast food or retail for like a year of their life. All right. Let's talk about this.
You will smell like French fries, though, even when you're not at work, no matter how much you scrub.
Some of us do anyway. Also, by the way, Lonzo, Captain America, Chris Evans down the hall, myself, CB, and show contributor Cameron all hit up for the very first time in my life Fuddruckers yesterday.
We have pictures and everything.
We do. In fact, I'll be
we'll put together a thing later.
Sometime over the weekend, I will be releasing my review of Fuddruckers.
I've already been asked, did he eat both of those?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
And the fries.
Yeah, well.
And I will have you know,
Rob had never experienced the cheese sauce.
That when I got home yesterday, my first thought was,
yeah, I wonder why.
Oh.
And he didn't go for the third pound. I mean, if you got 2 third pounds, that might have been a little bit.
I thought about it, but I think that would have been a bit much.
You went. No.
Hey, let me tell you what tipped me off after I ordered. So I told you I wanted to get 2 burgers because I wanted kind of both ends of the spectrum. And then I get the burgers and I tell the lady what it's for. And after I tell her what it's for. She takes my card. She rings me up. Then she hands it back and she goes, you could have just got one and done it a half and half burger. Well, thanks, I guess now.
Well, do you expect someone to go through all the options of the menu? If you would have
No, but I told her what I was doing and she had not
if you would have told her when you came out, hey, this is my first time here. This is what you're talking about Chris Evans. What he does, if we go somewhere new, he goes, hey, this is the first time I've been here. What's good here? He does that all the time. Which annoys me to death. But still,
That's not the same thing.
You could have got some suggestions from her, and then
I
maybe
knew what
that
I wanted. I just didn't know they could make 2 burgers on 1 burger.
There's also like a bunch of other people there who were with you who had been there a bunch.
And none of you told me either.
You know why? Because I guarantee you, like me, no one knew that. I had no idea. Nor would I ever think to do that. So
we'll come back to this.
All right.
We'll come back to this. All right. We found out yesterday that Jerry Richardson has passed away. Jerry Richardson, of course, a Wofford legend, the initial owner of the Carolina Panthers. He passed away yesterday at the age of 86 years old. He had become, or I guess I should say, obviously removed himself from the public light after he sold the Carolina Panthers to David Tepper a number of years ago for just shy of $3 billion at the time. And this is interesting because I think Jerry Richardson is a wonderful example of why when people do things that you love, you can't just then go, that guy's on a pedestal. Because Jerry Richardson leaves behind a very, very complicated legacy to dive through. On one hand, what Jerry Richardson has done for Wofford is incalculable. We have been to Wofford for their training camp.
You know, I got to, Mark Ryan and I, we were there the year when they opened up the basketball stadium. The first time they opened it up to the public, and we were there doing combine, not combine, but training camp coverage. And it was pretty cool to walk into that thing for the first time. But right there next to it is a big thing of Jerry Richardson. Yep. It's not, I forget.
It's called the Richardson Center.
Well, it's not a statue, but it's on the wall and it's huge. Like I don't know what it's called. I want to say Bas Motif, but I don't know if that's exactly. Listen, that's the first thing that popped in my head, and I think I might be right. I'll look it up.
I don't know what that means.
I think it's French.
Anyway, if you go to Wofford and you go to that arena, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's much smaller, but it's NBA quality. It is nice as the facilities on many a D1 campus, right? Without Jerry Richardson, there wouldn't be a Carolina Panthers. Remember back in 93, when the NFL was looking at expansion, there were multiple cities looking. Baltimore did not have a team at that point. They were in. They wanted to bring back the legacy. A city with, by the way, an NFL legacy already there. St. Louis, if I recall correctly, did not have a team at that point in time. They were in the mix. Another team that had NFL connections. And then there's Charlotte, North Carolina.
By the way, real quick, and I hate to do this, but I got to, artists create a bas relief by sculpting onto a 2D plane to create and accentuate figures and objects, producing a 3D appearance, which can be viewed from all angles with a little distortion. So I was right.
There you go. You're all smarter than you were when you started the show.
Now you can get back to what you were talking about.
Can I go back to my very serious
topic?
Well,
listen. But that's, you were talking about the good and the bad of Jerry Richardson. There's so much good in there, and it's hard to just talk about the bad.
And that's kind of what I'm driving at here.
Because right? the very first training camp that I got to go to, this was like year 3, I think. And there's an extravaganza going on now. I mean, I've been in parades. I've been on the stage to help lead the whole thing, all that kind of stuff. But then it was very quaint. It was very intimate. Nobody showed up. Okay. So it was really small. And I was sitting on the hill just watching. I had my sheet trying to figure out who the players were. This is also early on in my career, so that's how long ago it was. It was, I don't know, 22 years ago or something like that. But my wife was sitting somewhere else, and an older gentleman come and sat down and started talking to her. And talked to her for about 15 minutes. Very nice. Asking her if she was being taken care of, all that kind of stuff. And there's real easy to throw in a joke here, but there's no joke. And then we were watching the news later that night, and she's like, "Oh, I talked to him," and it was Jerry Richardson. So you get that part of Jerry Richardson, and then you also get are those new jeans, Jerry Richardson. I mean,
so Jerry Richardson is a guy that on one hand has done incalculable good for Wofford. Jerry Richardson is a guy that at a point in time where Baltimore wanted a team back, St. Louis wanted a team back, LA wanted a team back, and then enters the arena, Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, I genuinely do not know what the city of Charlotte, North Carolina was like in 1993. I obviously was nowhere near it, but I do know that as a kid in a family who traveled a lot and had gone to Atlanta, Miami, Key West, etc., I can't recall a point in my life where Charlotte, North Carolina was ever considered a destination, right? So Charlotte, North Carolina, which I'm sure at the time was a big city, but certainly nowhere near what it is now, enters the scene, and it was only because of Jerry Richardson that Charlotte, North Carolina was awarded an NFL franchise in 1993 that began play in 1995 called the Carolina Panthers. And then Jerry Richardson and the amount of emphasis he put on this team and demanding success out of this team in just a handful of years took that franchise to a Super Bowl. And not just to a Super Bowl, but to 2 Super Bowls. Now, the Panthers are 0-2 in the Super Bowl, but they have been to the Super Bowl twice. The New Orleans Saints cannot say that. The Atlanta Falcons cannot say that. Right? Now, Saints got one. Carolina doesn't. But Carolina's had a pair of chances at that legacy. But then there's the flip side, right? There's the Jerry Richardson that was behind the scenes that caused this team to be sold. There was the Jerry Richardson who instituted what has now become a joke of Jeans Friday around the Carolina Panthers HQ, which now, a number of years after the 2017 Sports Illustrated article that brought all of this to light, we recognize as Jerry Richardson instituting Jeans Friday, not because he wanted a Cash Friday like we do. Every day's Cash Friday around here. But because he was using it to effectively catch a glance of some of the young women in the office. And then he would make inappropriate comments to these young women that worked for him. He would make inappropriate advances at these young women who worked for him. There was a story about him having another staffer bring a young and relatively new, attractive female employee into his office where he revealed himself to be barefoot and asked for a foot rub. I can go ahead and tell you right now, there is no situation, unless you are a masseuse, where that's okay.
By the way, I'm only laughing because we all know how much Rob hates feet. So there's that.
Correct.
There's that.
Correct. Jerry Richardson, as much as he was a guy that did more for Wofford than Wofford could put a number on, as much as he was a guy that used his own money and research. By the way, keep in mind that while Charlotte has obviously contributed greatly to the advancement of the Panthers and BOA, et cetera, at the time, Richardson had to invest a lot of his own money to make it happen, probably more on a percentage scale than most owners do for their teams. That is part of the reason Charlotte, North Carolina got an expansion team over Baltimore, St. Louis, LA, et cetera. And then on the other side, you have a Jerry Richardson who's making inappropriate comments to female staffers, making inappropriate advances, inappropriate contact physically with them, overtly sexual gestures toward them, et cetera, et cetera. And I understand that there are some people who are going to go, well, Rob, that's just a holdover from Jerry Richardson's time, right? Like that was not considered inappropriate when Jerry Richardson was coming up to the world of business, but that's not acceptable.
Well,
that's not, there are some things that you don't just go, oh, it's a sign of the times.
if you are a player, what do? Because we've already seen some players throwing up pictures and videos and things, remembering Jerry Richardson, knowing how things ended. Are you reluctant to do that? Because Greg Olson and Steve Smith, both I've seen on Twitter so far this morning.
So I think back about the players.
I'm sorry, Steve Smith Senior.
Steve Smith Senior.
Yeah, I gotta. He might try to beat me, or he would beat me up. Yeah.
I was gonna say, ain't no might. It's an interesting legacy because on one hand, guys that played for him seem to love him, right? He had the nickname Big Cat around Charlotte, a nickname bestowed upon him by Kevin Green, the Hall of Famer. Kevin Green bestowed upon him the name Big Cat, and only the top tier players, Steve Smith, Kevin Green, etc., called him Big Cat. Every other player, according to an article that went up on the Charlotte Observer earlier today by Scott Fowler, Every other player referred to him solely as Mr. Richardson. Mr. Richardson, right? There's a lot of respect from his players, and he seemed to care deeply about his players. He seemed to care deeply about his team. He seemed to care deeply about the city of Charlotte, and he seemed to care deeply about the states, both of them, North and South Carolina. But on the flip side, there was the Jerry Richardson that had to sell the team because of his own behavior, which, I'm sorry, I don't care what your background is. It was inappropriate and unacceptable, right? Now, there's also this, Lonzo. What he did was unacceptable and inappropriate. And when that came out to light, he didn't do a Dan Snyder, did he? Jerry Richardson went, I got to get rid of the team. I have to remove myself from this situation. I don't think Jerry Richardson wanted to sell the Panthers. I don't think he had any interest in walking away from the Panthers. But I think he got to a point where he said, I cannot be embroiled in this. This cannot dampen this franchise. I need to step away from this. And within weeks, he had entered negotiations to sell the team to David Tepper.
Don't you always think in these situations, and maybe I'm just being negative, but I always got the feeling that he got the old quitter, you're going to be fired type thing.
Maybe he did. But so did Dan Snyder, allegedly. And look what Dan Snyder's putting the watch. By the way, there's another lawsuit and investigation going on.
I think age may come into play with that too, though.
It very well might.
Because I don't know how old Dan Snyder is, but there's no way he was as old as Richardson.
I want to say Dan Snyder's in his 60s now. 58. Yeah, I mean, significantly younger. Because Richardson would have been, what, in his early 80s when all this happened?
At least late 70s.
Yeah. So it's just an interesting conversation to be had, because it's such a complicated legacy. On one hand, you have Wofford, you have the Panthers. Football would not be as good as it is in the Carolinas if it wasn't for Jerry Richardson. On the flip side, you have a Jerry Richardson that acted the way he acted behind closed doors, that impacted the lives of, we'll never know how many young women predominantly who tried to get into this game, who tried to get into the world of sports, who tried to get into the NFL, who tried to get into the Carolina Panthers organization, and were subjected to gross, vulgar, inappropriate contact, physically, sexually, verbally, by Jerry Richardson, to the point that there was so much on him that he had to sell the team that he loved ever so dearly. We in sports have a habit of taking what we see out of sports figures only on the surface and building these idols out of them. Owners, coaches, players, etc. I will tell you, though I will not tell you who, there is an NFL coach active right now that I have been told by 3 different people over the years, by the way, not relatively new, but over the years. There's a current active NFL coach that I've been told by 3 different people has made inappropriate unwanted sexual contact with women in private settings over the years. A coach that, until I learned these things about him, and I'm not going to bring him to light for 2 reasons. A, one of the people who told me this was the young woman it happened to, and the other 2 came firsthand knowledge through someone that is directly and intimately related to these young women. That coach is somebody that is on a pedestal. That coach is somebody that is respected in the NFL circles, yet that story's come to me 3 different times from 3 different people, all very similar stories. Now, I'm not going to say it because, again, they asked me not to, and because there have not been any criminal investigations into the inappropriate behavior of this person. So there's no point in me bringing it up yet. But this person is widely considered as on a pedestal. And every time I see this individual celebrated, I'm like, no. It is complicated because these people are people. These people are people. And every people are going to do good things in their lives. And every people are going to do bad things in their lives. There are going to be people who do a hell of a lot of good and very minimal bad, but they're still going to do some bad. And there are some bad people who are going to do a hell of a lot of bad, but they're going to do some minimal good too. It is why I am very cautious to overwhelmingly idolize someone, because this kind of stuff goes on, right? So to be straight up with you, Lonzo, I don't really know how to talk about Jerry Richardson other than to say the good he's done for football in the Carolinas is widespread. It is impactful. It is at the core, at the foundation of the football community across the Carolinas.
As
On
you
the flip
as you're
side-
saying that, there's a Cam Newton video of him and Jerry Richardson
Sure.
popping up. So
Again, like, I can tell you that it is hard to accept when someone that you are exceptionally close to is connected to something that is that bad. It is hard to, it's kind of the opposite, right? As somebody who, and I don't say this to pump my own ego, I'm being sincere about this as much as I can. As somebody who has over the years gone out of my way to help women in this industry, sports and sports broadcasting as a whole, elevate them. If I can use my platform to elevate women in this industry, I'm going to do it every time, right? It's important to me. It matters. They've been at a disadvantage for, the ever. So I'm going to use my platform to help the best as I can. So what Jerry Richardson did behind the scenes in taking advantage of young women who were looking to advance themselves in an industry that we all love is gross, and I can't overlook it. But I also understand a guy like Cam Newton, a guy that has a legacy, a guy that played for a Super Bowl, a guy that got a shot in the league because of Jerry Richardson. And the folks over at Wofford, who I respect a lot, and the gym, and all Wofford, all Jerry Richardson did for them. I understand how it is important for them to issue their positive thoughts about Jerry Richardson. Wofford would not be where it is without Jerry Richardson. The Panthers would not exist without Jerry Richardson. But on the flip side, I can't excuse what he did. I don't care if you're 80. You have to know that what you did was unacceptable, inappropriate, taking advantage of a power imbalance that you were in the catbird seat for. And you have to know and do better. It's a complicated legacy. It's a legacy that I think every time we talk about all the good he did for the Carolinas, you have to talk about the bad that came with it, so that other people know that the power imbalance that Jerry Richardson took advantage of during his time as the big cat is not okay. And we can't allow it. We can't accept it. We have to stop it. And that's where I think that conversation needs to be kept moving forward. Let's take a break. We'll come back and get into some stuff that is hopefully significantly less of a bummer than that. I'm Rob Brown. The great one Lonzo's at the board, and you're listening to The Rob Brown Show. You're listening to the Fan Upstate. How'd you feel about your first serious segment? Sucks, right?
$50 million.
Was it that much?
That was how much?
I mean, look, they would not be.
It is nice though. It definitely is Division I quality.
Yeah, I didn't know anything.
I thought it was BetQL. That's why I stopped, because it's
They always have that late.
which is next.
All right, stream. Be right back. I gotta fix something. Don't go nowhere. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. All right, don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
Maybe everything on that side is just going bad.
Yeah. All right, dudes, we are back. Dudes and dudettes. We
Yes.
are back.
Yes, we are back. That's us.
Oh, you know what I want to hit here? That one sound clip that I added. If you don't mind.
Did you get awarded any points?
It sure did. 30 of them.
Yeah, I got 30 also. I felt special for a moment. Then I remembered the email yesterday and figured everybody got it. So. I don't know how many I have now. I have to go look at the store and see if I have enough to like buy a koozie or something.
All right, real quick segment here because I got to get back on the clock. Illinois' Matthew Mayer plays power forward for the Illini. He is also, Lonzo, absolutely now an unofficial member of the Rob Brown Armada because Matthew Mayer, well, he missed a little bit of time for the Illini, missed a few practices this week, as a matter of fact. And he missed a few practices this week. By the way, the Illini, just like everybody else, are in the mix of trying to play their way into the tournament or getting themselves a good seed in the tournament. Well, Matthew Mayer missed a couple of practices this week. And yesterday, he was asked why. And this was his answer. The Illini are 11-8. They are 20-10 overall. They are currently sitting at 15-2 at home, 3-6 away. They are certainly a potential qualifier for the March Madness tournament. Matthew Mayer missed a couple of practices. Why? Because he drank 6 monsters in a row because he wanted to experience, direct quote, a caffeine-induced euphoria, end quote.
No.
He played video games.
I was going to say, you got to mention to play video games. So I don't know if it enhances how you play games. Maybe the hand-eye is quicker now. Yeah, exactly. The games I play, I'm not sure I could do that if I was nervous.
Now let Rob Brown not be a hypocrite.
Maybe he's playing Call of Duty or Fortnite or something, and it helped him to get.
Call of Duty is kind of the go-to umbrella game for playing with the boys, right?
Especially for short people.
Sure.
In Arizona.
Sure.
Yes.
And also me, right? And let Rob Brown not be a hypocrite. Rob Brown is well aware of the fact that he absolutely drinks significantly more Monster Energy drinks than should any human being.
Rob, you know who else knows that? All of us.
All of you.
Yes. All of us. We all know that.
Correct. Certainly everyone who watches the live stream knows that Rob Brown puts away like a couple of monsters a show, but I will also tell you that not 6 in a row.
Are you sure?
Back to back.
I haven't actually counted how many you drink within it. It's got to be 1 an hour, isn't it?
No.
It's not?
It's 2
okay.
a show. And ordinarily it's 1 big one and 1 little one.
Which
right?
would equal 3, right?
Which would be 3.
Okay, so that's kind of.
But I will also tell you that when the show is over, Rob Brown's done with energy drinks for the day. I want to give you all the juice I got for these 3 hours,
so to speak.
And then I'm done when the show. Like I don't go home and bang through more monsters at the house, right? 6 to experience a caffeine-induced euphoria while playing video games. Now, don't get me wrong.
I drank half of a Red Bull once. It did not end well. So I can't do that. my mind and everything is already going so fast. If you put that on, it doesn't work for me.
As a
And plus, someone needs to be calm in this room.
as a veteran consumer of not just energy drinks, but
So I would build up tolerance if I get. I'm not doing that.
Monster specifically. I will tell you a couple of things. Number one, yes, you do it the way an energy drink works. I learned this the other day because after like the 9,000th time that I got told, Rob, you shouldn't drink so many of them, I was like, you know what? Let me go look up what actually happens. And the way that it works is that Monster has chemicals in it that go to the receptors in your brain that receive melatonin. That's the chemical signal that tells your brain you're tired, take a rest, right? And it takes these chemicals and it basically plugs up the sensors that receive melatonin from your brain. So the more you have, the less melatonin your brain chemical receptors receive. And so you may actually be physically tired, but your brain chemistry is altered in a way that you don't get the signal that says, hey, take your old ass to bed.
Can I throw in a company required disclaimer here that we at the Fan Upstate and Odyssey Greenville do not condone this kind of behavior. You should never do this.
Listen, I would like to think that anybody who's not college age or younger needs to be told, hey, maybe don't bang down six monsters.
That guy on the radio achieved caffeine euphoria.
Yeah. Don't do that. Okay.
Yeah, it's a bad idea.
So once your brain gets rewired and your brain is not allowed to receive,
Is
the
this
chemical
proportional
signals,
to like it is from what I understand in drinking? Is it probably the same thing? The taller you are, the bigger you are, maybe it affects you a little bit less than.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you right now, the reason I drink 3 is because 1 does nothing for me. Right? Like 1, and I don't know if it's.
Did it used to?
No, probably not.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, like for instance, again, I'm a 6'3", 250-pound Irish Catholic kid. I can put down a number of whiskeys that do not impact me the way that they do people who are less sturdy than I, right? So the fact that my man went down 6 monsters to play video games, he completely shut off the chemical signals.
James says this is like the WWF telling me not to try this at home before Raw.
Yes, it is. He completely.
But legally, we're covered now. So, I mean,
Lonzo is the walking human disclaimer. He completely cut off his brain's ability to receive signals to chill the bleep out, right? Which is where that euphoria probably came from. I said all of this up to say, this is the most unique coach I'm going to miss practice today I've ever seen in my life. We've seen oversleeping. My alarm didn't go off. I worked too much. I got class. I skipped a test for this, whatever. I have never seen a dude go, I banged down 6 monsters in an hour because I wanted to feel purple. I wanted to taste yellow. I wanted to understand the secrets of the universe and also catch that dub in Warzone, dog.
See, that's the thing. I think that's the thing and you probably knew that this is the thing that interests me most. I'm not going to try this, but I'm just curious about how it enhances video games. I just don't.
If you are
is my dude slow and lethargic normally and has no reflexes, so he has to do this in order to catch up with people who are good?
If your brain is not receiving chemical signals that tell you it's tired and your brain believes it's full tilt time, your reaction time is going to be faster, your alertness is going to be up. It's like, you wake up, you get going, Lonzo hits his 14 miles daily on the treadmill, and when you get done and that blood is pumping and the heart rate is up, your brain is awake. Your reaction time is faster. You're more receptive to the world around you. You're paying more attention, etc. It's that, except I've channeled it all into trying to get that KD up above 1 finally.
I wish he would say what game he's playing because I'm just curious.
Yeah, I guarantee it's Call of Duty. I guarantee you it's Call of Duty.
It's got to be something like that you're going to put a whole lot of time in it and you're worried about your reflex.
I guarantee you it's Call of Duty.
He's probably not playing Minecraft or something like that. Yeah,
I guarantee it.
Maybe it's a Sims.
It's me, him, and Kai all on a COD squad together, banging down Red Bulls and making terrible decisions. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, we got to, oh, by the way, Illinois right now is currently second in the Big Ten in their rankings. So they kind of need my guy to not be in a caffeine-induced.
Will this lead
euphoria.
to testing for that sort of thing?
He didn't do anything illegal.
Well, he didn't do it while he was playing.
Doesn't
Although
matter.
it's kind of like,
Turns out Monster is not a PED.
isn't speed basically caffeine?
I do not know the chemical
And
composition
if
of
so,
speed.
wouldn't this be the equivalent of liquid speed? I'm
No.
just saying. I don't know.
For your sake, you better hope Monster energy drinks aren't a PED, or your boy's catching like a 10-year suspension.
Yeah, there's no. We don't have any rules.
There's no rules. All right, let's take a break.
The Rise guys work here. I mean, come on.
When we come back, a Baltimore Ravens wide receiver just put his own team on blast, and he used yesterday's NFLPA report cards to do it. Told you. I'll explain it when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. And sometimes you just do dumb segments because they make you laugh. For those of you watching on the stream, I'm sorry I'm clicking back and forth, but my computer monitor that I usually have the stream on has decided to not anymore.
Yeah, engineering's ignoring me. I'm gonna go find them.
For those of you watching on the stream, because I don't know if you can hear him, but Alex and Phoenix back here are dying at the live chat. Dying at the chat. Camera's over here.
You're waving and then looking.
Basketball plays all season long right here on the Fan Upstate. Download the Odyssey app, search the Fan Upstate, and listen anywhere on your phone. With the Sports Flash, I'm Chuck Sanders on the Fan Upstate.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, aside from letting you do stuff like this, where do y'all go to school? Start with that. Career? Do they have any like technology classes or anything? High school? Okay.
I signed up for that. Did you sign up for that? Did you run
A small business is no small task.
How goes it, kids?
At Home Trust Bank, we work
Is he
hard.
driving you nuts yet?
Not as funny, man.
How are you, man? I right before we went on the air, I apologize to both of them. I said I'm gonna catch them by surprise because I yell and I still don't think they were prepared for it.
He's a little noisy, isn't he? What'd you think of the judge?
I haven't watched the sentencing yet.
The sentencing just happened.
Yeah, well, they started the sentencing as we were going on.
No, it's already happened.
Oh, I know, but
Yeah,
I'm saying that it started at 9, so I didn't get to watch it. I will say this: I thought throughout the trial, he was good. I think that he overruled a couple of objections from the defense that are going to be grounds for an appeals process. I know that there's going to be an appeal, and I think a number of the objections he overruled are going to go into those appeals. There was nothing I thought was egregious. I think the ones that they'll utilize, well, we're talking court cases.
It won't matter. He ain't never gonna see the light of
No, he won't. Listen, this trial was more about principle because I think just the financial crime, we're going to put him in for 25 minimum, which he's what, 50?
Yeah, but what prison does he go to? Does he go to the high class
For
1%er, or does he
If
go
it was
to
just the financial
okay.
crimes, I think he's like,
I was gonna say Perry. We used to get phone calls from Perry on Russ and Lisa all the time, and got permission to take a phone call from there, one per day.
ladies and gentlemen on the stream, by the way, I would like to introduce to you the illustrious JD the Stone Man.
What's up?
Actual size.
Yeah, I'm actual size. Yeah. And I'm not standing on a box today.
He's gonna make me pay for that. I couldn't help it.
Let you guys get back at it.
Thank you, buddy.
You guys have fun.
Hockey and NASCAR fan 09 says this show is awesome. Thanks, Hockey and NASCAR fan 09.
Gee, I wonder who that is.
It's not me, for the record. It's not me. Oh, is that you? Is that you, Hockey and NASCAR fan 09?
I was thinking,
my man. Look at my man absolutely going into business for himself over here.
They were also talking about it. So
I should
mean,
have got it
believe
by the
or
fact
not,
that you
know.
have up the Swamp Rabbit's car as the profile pic.
Sorry for busting you out like
Which
that.
was
I
a
don't know.
dope look, by the way. The Swamp Rabbits car was a dope look.
So what video games you guys play? You guys play any?
Catch that dub, son. Get that smoke. Get that bread.
Nothing wrong with that.
The boy's gone. Give me the controller. I'm in.
Hey, Rob, have you ever insulted a member of management and wonder if there are going to be repercussions about it?
No, what kind of idiot would do that?
I don't know. It isn't like we haven't done that on the air like
Anyway,
every other day.
Thanks to Stone Man for coming down and saying hi.
Wow, what a coincidence you would mention that he was in here.
I just pop by the stream. You never know what celebrity guests are going to come by.
Yeah,
Like the Stone Man.
they're everywhere.
Think about Stone Man or the Stone Man.
It's Stone Man.
That's what I thought.
You should go and spend some time in his office and ask him how he got the name. No, there's other than the obvious thing, there's more to it.
Okay.
And
Love Stone Man. Good dude.
he spent some quality time with Jerry Garcia. You should talk to him about that. No. Seriously, you should talk to him about that.
So there's a
No one
missing
in-
from his
no-
name is what you're saying.
No one in this room knows who Jerry Garcia is. So
I know who Jerry
except for okay, all right.
You know
yes.
Jerry Garcia.
Yeah, he does. He does. Yeah, he spent
Yeah.
some quality time with
It's
him.
just Alex in Phoenix over
No,
here.
no, really. You should ask him about it.
I'm
It's-
going to now.
It's hilarious.
I'm absolutely going to now. All right, let me get this story in real quick. Yesterday we talked about the fact that the NFL Players Association had every player in the league last season fill out or ask them to fill out a survey in which they graded out certain qualities and services provided by their team. And the objective of the NFLPA was to give free agents a report card, if you will, to utilize to help them make their decisions when it came to free agency. And there were some teams that did exceptionally well, and there were some teams who did exceptionally poorly in these report cards. The Arizona Cardinals ranked dead last in the league. The Kansas City Chiefs, 29, but also Super Bowl winners, right?
Multiple times.
And
Just want to point that out. Like
the qualities that they took into consideration were coaching staff, travel accommodations, food, the way the franchise treats the family, etc. They had every player rank on a numerical system, 1 through 10, I believe, how good these things were, and then give a qualitative answer. That is to say, the weight room is good because, bad because, the strength and conditioning team is good because, bad because, the travel is good because or bad because. Well, the Baltimore Ravens did okay. They did get a couple of Fs, though. And the Fs were in their strength and conditioning coaches and their weight room. And I said yesterday after we gave you these report cards that they would absolutely have an impact on the league. These would make a difference. These would matter. And I said that I suspected that down the line, you would start seeing NFL free agents show up in classes, the quality of which would be a direct reflection on where teams were rated on this report card order. I did not think that it would be less than 18 hours before the first player took a run at a team based on their grade. The Baltimore Ravens are, like everybody else, at the combine right now. The Baltimore Ravens general manager, Eric DeCosta, was discussing the Lamar Jackson situation, whether or not they'll get him re-signed to a new contract, franchise tag him, or trade him. And it was very interesting because DeCosta, when asked about and asked to evaluate the quarterback position, he actually decided to, I think, take a run at another group of guys. He said, quote, I would say a lot of people would say the same thing. It's a challenging position to evaluate in different ways. If I had an answer, that means I would probably have some better receivers, I guess. So he kind of said the offense struggled this year because we didn't have good receivers. Well, 2021 first-round pick Rashad Bateman was not thrilled by that answer. He put out a tweet that was deleted minutes later, but it said this, quote, "How about you play to your player's strength and stop pointing the finger at us and number 8? Blame the one you let do this. We take heat 24/7 and keep us healthy. Care about us and see what happened. Ain't no promises, though. Tired of y'all lying and capping on players for no reason." Lonzo, what's cap mean?
We learned that
Yesterday's
yesterday.
lesson.
Yes, we learned that. It's a lying.
Yes.
Lying. Yes.
Yes. So Bateman tweeted out later on after deleting that tweet, "My apologies," with an emoji of two characters.
Sorry, I
hugging
went
each other.
finger guns because
He
when I
did.
hear capping, that's the first thing I think. So
Gonna
it's,
pop a cap. Son.
yeah. But now we know.
Bateman just went after his own GM. Granted, it was after the GM went after him indirectly, but nonetheless, went after his GM, and he said in there, "Keep us healthy, care about us, and see what happened. Ain't no promises, though." What did he mean by that? Well, the Baltimore Ravens, as we mentioned earlier, when we talk about those report cards that we gave you yesterday, the Baltimore Ravens ranked 17th of 32 teams overall in the league. They received a C grade for treatment of families, C+ for the weight room, F- for strength coaches, and a C for training room. In fact, the only A's they got were for their locker room and team travel. So Rashad Bateman took a direct shot at the Ravens and tied in the fact that their strength coaches were ranked dead last in the league. Their training room was ranked 21st in the league. Their training staff was ranked 22nd in the league. And their treatment of families was ranked 18th in the league and given a C grade. They checked in just behind dead center of the league. And Rashad Bateman just put the Ravens on blast for all the things that the Ravens are now cited for failing for. What did I tell you was the purpose of these report cards? Over the past few years, we have seen the power dynamics between employers and employees shifting from the employers to the employees. And the number one weapon that an employee has to go head-to-head with the employer is information.
All right. I still say this is a union ploy to give ammunition to the players in order to negotiate more money out of the next collective bargaining agreement.
Yes.
And it's kind of a cheap underneath kind of thing.
I don't think it is at all.
Sure.
I do not
It
think-
could be if they also, and I'm just speculating. Let's say they speculate, okay, hey guys, if you want more money, maybe your review is it's not that good of a review. You know what I'm saying?
If you would like to assume mafia tactics taking place over there, Don G. Alonzo,
Mafia is
accept
everywhere, man. Especially in
here's-
Spartanburg. Don't mess with those guys.
But I will tell you that if I was the NFL, that is exactly the mindset I would want you to have, because I want to maintain the power over the players and the power dynamic. What the players have now is shared information about all 32 clubs that they can have both for themselves and for others that allows them to have a little bit more power to A, correct problems, B, guide their own free agency decisions if and when it is time for them to change teams. And now you have got a player who has put his team on blast, which, by the way, after his own GM put him and his position group on blast, now he has got something to fire back with. And instead of just going into a mic, that hurt my feelings, right? It's not my fault. Now he's able to go, whoa, hold up. You say the offense had problems because of the wide receiver group, and that's fine, GM Eric DaCosta. I say we had problems because you are giving us a crap weight room. You have given us the worst ranked strength and conditioning coaches in the National Football League. You have given us a below average training room to treat our injuries, and you don't take care of our families, which means you don't care about us. So why would you expect us to care about you? The players have more power than they've ever had before, And Rashad Bateman just threw the first into the chamber. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back for the third final Best of Money Hour, the Rob Brown Show, we talk a little college basketball. We talk a little college baseball as Clemson and South Carolina are set to square off at Fluor Field tomorrow. We'll be there for that. And then we run some thoughts on the Murdaugh trial, which got a verdict last night and a sentencing this AM. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right. Pardon me one more time. Right there. And I didn't need the other monster. Thanks to Chris.
You're welcome. An adrenaline surge will do it every time. Over there.
I said host side. Wouldn't you consider this, wouldn't you consider that host side?
You didn't see the word host.
I thought I put host in there.
You said the top monitor.
Did I not? I could have worded it improperly. It's not a surprise. I did say host side, by the way. I just want you to be right. Chris, have you ever achieved caffeine euphoria? Oh wow, that you actually have to think about it.
No, I have to think about how to put it. I have long thought that I am somewhat resistant to caffeine because I don't get the normal effects that everybody talks about having. But then again, that night that I was talking about, where we taste tested all those energy drinks on the Pulse, I did feel weird that night, and I went home and played video games for like 5 hours, and I was like, I don't like this. This isn't fun.
Well, we just talked about it on the air, and I wondered how it helped if it helped his hand-eye coordination and being alert to things going on and stuff like that. I think we might actually talk about that tomorrow too. He can survive for an hour if need
I don't
be.
need it if you need.
By the way, guys, something you need to know. You should also consider
Making very dear friends with
being on either side of the board, because if you know how to do both things, then you can do all things. It makes you more valuable. Also, math is very important.
Yeah.
No one tells you how important math is in radio, especially being able.
However, tell you how important math is everywhere, like all the time. They'll be like, "You're going to use this every day." Believe them. Yeah,
There's a thing called back timing where you have to time something to the top of the hour, so you have to quickly go through and count all the different commercials and how much time you have, and then add or take away something if you have to. They don't tell you about the math. It is the worst part of radio, is the math. It's the worst part.
The worst part of radio is dealing with people who have bigger egos than they deserve.
None of those are in this room.
Hi, Chris.
No, none of those are in this room.
You can just name me. I'm right here.
Not talking about you.
I'm gonna say, if you saw about, I earned my ego, so
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Chris.
Old man grunt. Jiggle the thingy, Rob.
First of all, this is
Well, that's not mine, so I don't care.
Tell me what happened.
No, I touched it.
Nothing yet.
It done blown up.
Nothing?
No, sir.
Good.
The power light is still yellow,
Yeah, well, it will be.
or as we say, yeller.
Yeller.
They call me Meller Yeller. That's right, Slick.
Come on, Kevin. I can outcount you any day, dude. Let's
You.
not do this. I can outmath you.
I can outcount you any day.
I made it to college calculus. How far did you go, Kevin?
Oh, snap.
Anything?
Oh, snap. No, sir.
Also, Kevin, go Chiefs.
Yes, sir. So this is what the folks are seeing on their screen. Down here is our effectively green
Steven,
room.
dude, you should not have said that.
Like a guest that comes in, like on Thursdays.
We have
got
guests in
a
the
guy
studio,
that-
man.
Yes.
This is a guest, and he actually comes on the stream with us, and we can pipe the sound from the stream out over the airwaves. So you'd see him pop up down here, and then we add him or take him back off, whatever. This is our live chat over here. So we stream to Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube to 8 different destinations.
You don't mess with my mom, Kevin. She'll whip your butt.
On the screen,
And mine too.
comment on any of those destinations, and it populates over here for us, so we can see where everybody is chatting from all the destinations that we stream to. Right. So like those are, and because we have like,
Are these like regulars that normally chat with
yeah,
you?
we've got a group of probably 8, 9, 10 guys that are in here every single day, and then you'll have we've seen ordinarily we hang, so that's the number of viewers we have at any given time, and it usually hangs out around there on and off throughout the show. We've seen numbers as high as well north of 100 during certain times. The third, the final, the best, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes right now. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. What, Lonzo?
You moved them out of their chairs. I saw it.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they moved up just a little bit when you started. It's an amazing thing to watch.
We have got a couple of gentlemen in here from Greer Middle School, right? Alex and Phoenix, who are potentially aspiring broadcasters. Has this reinforced or just completely destroyed your optimism about doing this for a job? Not really changed anything?
Way to go,
That's
Rob.
it, Rob
You
Brown.
just said, yes.
Not making an impact on the lives of America's youth.
Welcome to mid.
Yeah,
That's us.
that's fine. That's why the jacket's hanging up and not being worn. All right. So they're hanging out with us here on the stream. And for those of you that might be interested, after we reach the end of the radio broadcast, we are going to stay live for just a couple of minutes on the stream. I'm going to let Alex and Phoenix grab the 2 mics to my left and let them give a hand at doing a little radio on the live stream, which you can be watching right now, by the way, at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, the Fan Upstate on YouTube, the Rob Brown Show on YouTube, or the Rob Brown Show on Twitch. All of those destinations available for you. We want you to watch. We want you to comment. We want you to be involved with the radio broadcast. It's more fun and better when you are.
Just don't interact with Kevin. You don't want to do that.
He will drop a yo mama on you immediately. So we're going to stay live on the stream for 10, 15 minutes after the show comes to its conclusion to let Alex and Phoenix grab a mic and see how they do. We will run that for you right after we go off the air at noon. A couple of things I wanted to get into in this segment before, I'm sorry, I have to give you the final thoughts I had on the Murdoch trial in the next segment because it's my show and I want to. So that's what we're doing. Lonzo just did the underbite anger thing.
No, actually, I nodded my head because apparently, your name's on the show and it's your show. That was affirmation.
Hashtag branding.
That's what it was.
So we'll get to that in the next segment. But let me get to this real quick. Clemson Tiger basketball.
Wait. Did you receive an email?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. So that means that dude's not listening. You're actually going to talk about Clemson and he's not listening. If you are listening, text line 71307. Let us know that you're out there and Rob's about to talk Clemson.
Start your text with Fan FM. We'll read them on the air.
And I'm about to zone out.
So Clemson took that ugly 10-point loss on the road at Louisville. And I told you at the time, I've been telling you all year because this is just the game that Clemson basketball is elected to play this year. A real bad loss hurts you more than 2 really good wins help you, right? Losses weigh more on your team than wins elevate it. That loss to Louisville, a team that at that point in time had a grand total of 3 wins in the Atlantic Coast Conference was devastating for the Tigers, specifically because of the fact that about a week and a half before that, Clemson was number 1 in the ACC. Then they lost to a bad Boston College team. Then they lost to a good Miami team, in a close game, by the way. Then they got blown out by a North Carolina team that is firmly planted on the bubble right now. They came off that 3-game losing streak, and they smoked Florida State by 40. 40. An FSU team that actually had kind of started to find a little momentum at that point. It is a great point. It was a great win. To which I said, all right, go smoke Louisville, go smoke Syracuse, and then you have to win one of the two between NC State and Virginia. Clemson goofed. They got beat by a bad Louisville team. But they turned around and they got the win over Syracuse. In fact, a pretty convincing win, 91-73. And then they went to Raleigh and took on an NC State team that is on the bubble, but towards the top of it. It's not a great win, but it's a win you had to have. And they got that win, 96-71. You lost to Virginia. Good news is, it was a decent game. You lost by 7 to a top 13 Virginia team, a Virginia team that is locked into the ACC tournament. Tomorrow night, Notre Dame comes to Clemson. The Irish and the Tigers will do battle. Let me set you up here. With the L2 Virginia, Clemson needs one more big-time win. That win is not Notre Dame. That win is not the Irish, nor is it going to be whatever team that they catch in the opening part of the bracket. Clemson right now is currently sitting at 13-6. Clemson, if the regular season ended today, would be entering the ACC tournament as a 6th seed. There's good news, bad news. The good news is, as of right now, Clemson would not play until the second day of the tournament next Wednesday, March 8th. The bad news is they would catch the winner of the game 1. This is if the season ended today. It may jumble up a little bit by the end of the weekend after the regular season concludes. But right now, game 1 is the 12 seed, a bad Florida State team, taking on the 13 seed, a bad Georgia Tech team. You'll catch the winner. That win doesn't help you any. What you have to do is win game 5. Again, if the format is the way it is today based on rankings, you'd have to win that game. You'd have to go to Thursday, and you would catch the number 4 seed Duke. That, to me, becomes a must-win game for Clemson to play. Clemson right now is currently sitting, in my estimation, probably in the next 4-in seat. But next 4-in is an earned. I do not think Clemson can hope that any 1 or 2 of the next 4 out in Lenardi's bracketology drop out and that they take that spot. I think Clemson is going to have to earn its way in. How do you do that? You have to beat Notre Dame on Saturday. You will have to win your opening game, likely next Wednesday, against a very low-seeded ACC team. And then I think you have to win your second game next Thursday against one of the top 2 seeds. Pitt, today, currently holds the 1 seed. Miami holds the 2 seed. Virginia, who just beat you, holds the 3 seed. And Duke holds the 4 seed. A win over any one of those teams, 3 of which I think are in the tournament. Pitt is in, Miami is in, Virginia is in. I am relatively convinced that given the blue blood advantage, the step up that you get by being Duke or North Carolina or Kentucky or Indiana, with the blue blood boost I think Duke's in too. I think the 4 top seeds in the ACC tournament are all going dancing at this point. I don't think anybody after those 4 are going. This is not going to be a 6-bid season for the ACC. It's down. But if Clemson would like to become ACC seed number 5, you must beat Notre Dame on Saturday. If you drop either the Notre Dame game at home on Saturday, or you drop the opening round game to, again, today, FSU or Georgia Tech, card subject to change. In the opening round game, I think you're done. I think you're NIT bound. I think it's going to be wildly disappointing that with 5 weeks left in the season, the Clemson Tigers had the best record in the ACC, and then the wheels came off at the end.
So what you're saying is if you're a Clemson basketball fan, expect what you normally get out of Brad Brownell-led basketball team.
It's kind of what it feels like, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so how far do they have to go? Do they have to make the tournament before the few basketball fans out there start screaming again that he needs to be gone?
Making the tournament, I think, is the floor, right? And I think even if you make the tournament, you're still going to have people calling for you because 2 steps. Number one, you held the number 1 seed in the ACC in a year where Duke is down, Carolina's down, in a season where the Pitt Panthers lead the ACC. The ACC was there for the taking this
So I was
season.
going to say what you're saying. This was the year for Clemson to do it. The
This
fact
was the
that
year.
Pitt is leading.
This was the year for the Clemson basketball team to at least grab a season of dominance. And they had it at one point. They were in the driver's seat at one point of this conference. And despite being in the driver's seat of the Atlantic Coast Conference, inconsistency did them in, as has been the way of the Brad Brownell tenure. When the season started, when Clemson got up to the top of the ACC, I had a conversation with a buddy of mine who is a big Clemson guy. I think I've told this story on the air already. Had a conversation with him where I said, dude, you got to be feeling pretty good, right? Like, are you ready to apologize to Brad Brownell for calling for his job when you're leading the conference? And he said, hell no. And I said, why? Now, at this point in time, there were only like 3 or 4 weeks left in the season. There were only like 8, 6, 7, something like that games left. And he said, because of the fact that it is not lack of good wins for Clemson, because we have those. It is the consistency of inconsistency that does us in. It's the losses to Loyola Chicago. It's the losses to a bad South Carolina. It's those losses, inexcusable losses. If Loyola Chicago and South Carolina are both wins for Clemson, they're probably already in. But those 2 losses are absolute albatrosses around the neck of this program right now. He said, we are consistently inconsistent. We will get the big wins, and then we will drop stupid losses that damage us more than the big wins help us. And he called that shot exactly, because the BC loss was a stupid and inexcusable loss. The Carolina loss is acceptable, but not great. But that Louisville loss is haunting. Haunting. That is such a weight around the neck of the Clemson program that is fighting for its life. And if that L doesn't happen, if the Loyola Chicago L doesn't happen, and if the South Carolina L, those 3 L's are lifted, which they never should have been what they are. But if those 3 L's are lifted, Clemson's in the tournament. Like today. There's no question about this. Clemson's in the tournament today. There's no, we have to beat Notre Dame. I mean, you would still have to, but it's not like high pressure, right? You could eat the L to Notre Dame and you'd still be like, all right, we're probably still in. And it wouldn't be mandated that you win a minimum of 2 games in Greensboro. Winning a game in Greensboro would be good. Winning 2 would be optional. Anything more than that, you're just playing with improving your seeding. It was the inconsistency that did Clemson in. Now, they're not done. But here's the other aspect of it. They're not done. But if they get in, they're looking like a 12 seed, a 13 seed, which means out of the gate, they're likely catching like a very good Illinois team or something like that. They're likely catching a team that is looking at a 20-ish win season, a 22-win season. Maybe not an enormous look, but you're likely catching a team right now. Let's look at, in fact, you know what? I didn't even pull up bracketology because I didn't feel like I needed to. Right now, Joe Lunardi has Clemson in the tournament, but sitting on the bubble of the next 4 out. As a real brief aside right now, he has Furman winning the SoCon and in the tournament as a 14 seed, taking on Marquette, and then catching the winner of Northwestern West Virginia after that. Let me look down. Where does he have Clemson in this bracket right now? He has you. I actually can't even find you right now. Anyway, Lunardi's got you in, but he's got you in as a next 4 out, which means that he is looking for you at this point to drop a dumb game and cost yourself a spot on the bracket. I, right now today, don't think I have Clemson in. I think Clemson is actually going to need, I think they're actually going to need one more big-time win. And I think they did it to themselves. I think they hamstrung themselves into this position. So we'll see how it plays out. But I will tell you this. Saturday night's game, the Clemson Tiger basketball team's in a playoff right now. Every win from this point forward for the next 3 are win or go homes. All of them. Notre Dame, likely Georgia Tech or Florida State in the opening round, and then likely Duke in the second round. I think all 3 are wins. I think any loss out of that is going to end the basketball season for the Tigers of Clemson. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, I have done all that I can do, ladies and gentlemen, to avoid talking about the Murdaugh trial here on the air. But we got a verdict. We got a sentence. It is a story that has dominated television and radio across the state. And it's my turn to weigh in. I got some thoughts. I'll see if you agree on them. We'll check them out when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
No, we're good.
All right, Stream, we have got some
No, we
computer
don't.
cables we got to play with.
No, we don't.
We don't have computer.
Well, at this point, I don't know whether it's the monitor or the computer, but you either need to restart this computer, probably after.
I'll have to do it after the show.
Or we're going to have to replace the monitor. Either of those are going to have to happen after the show.
Okay. Can I get like a 70-inch monitor? That's a joke. That's a joke. I know you got. That's a joke.
Believe me, I have thought about setting one of those.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate, and it is...
I apologize. I didn't get any court-like sound, you know?
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, but this is more like, well, I guess it would apply.
Dun, 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 dun.
I don't really watch any of those shows. My wife watches them. Like, she does like 10 CSIs recording and all that kind of stuff. And
When I was teen, early
by the way,
20s,
I also work at a news station, so I think I got that covered.
how much?
right?
Sincere question: how much Murdoch stuff was there running over there? Was that like every day, every hour, every couple of minutes?
Well, it's up to each talk show host about whether they talk about it or not. I know the local host.
Was it in your like news?
Yeah, it was in the
updates?
news. It has
Yeah.
to be in the news.
what I
I
thought.
mean, even if it was a trial in another state, this is a high profile trial, so they're going to be talking about it. Probably more so since it's in our backyard.
Oh, by the way, our Clemson texter said, "I am here, Lonzo. I'm always here, you jabroni."
You know, that narrows it down a little bit because it's not who I thought it was.
Okay.
They would never use that
Yeah,
word because it would imply that they're a wrestling fan. No, there's plenty of coverage to the point where I know on Tara Show and on Charlie's, we've had special guests who are covering the trial, going in depth and that kind of thing. And you got to do that when it's in your backyard. Yeah, you absolutely do. And the fact that the nation and probably the world was watching this thing. It's already had a Netflix documentary out. What
Netflix, HBO.
before the trial even ended? How often does that happen?
I will say this, that I think the reason that this is the story that it has become is because of those documentaries, right? So the story is wild, right? The story is absolutely wild. You've got a family who, for 4 generations, has been absolutely power players in both the legal and finance communities within the county that they live in. There was apparently, and I actually have a friend married to a young lady who went to school with the Murdochs when they were younger.
I know a guy who knew a girl who had dinner with.
Whose dog's veterinarian's uncle's brother. No, this girl went to school with the Murdochs growing up. And there was a saying that went around in that county, which is you can't convict a Murdoch, right? Because there have been thoughts that their hands have been involved in some shady dealings for many, many years now. And so Paul Murdoch, who is the young man who was murdered at the kennels on the Moselle property, was involved in the boat accident. And then after the boating accident, which killed a young lady by the name of Mallory Beach, after the boating accident, the story broke that Alec Murdoch was changing a tire on the side of the road when somebody came up and shot him in the back of the head. And then it came the twist that Alec Murdoch actually hired somebody to do that, to stage it as a murder, as opposed to payment for suicide, right? And then it just got to the point where that story was so random and ridiculous that anybody who pays attention to this stuff had to go, what the hell is going on here, right? And then,
Except for the people who lived in that town who were just like, yeah, that's.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So the documentaries go out. Everybody starts paying attention. Well, the timing of the murders became interesting because after the boating accident, well, Paul Murdoch, who was underage, was using his older brother Buster's ID to illegally obtain alcohol, who was absolutely tanked, driving a speedboat, well, a center console fishing boat, I guess, and hit the piling of a bridge, ejecting a young woman by the name of Mallory Beach, who was killed in the accident, her body not found for a week. Paul Murdoch was about to go to trial both for criminal and civil cases. The Beach family was seeking damages from both the Murdoch family and the gas station who sold the booze to Paul Murdoch. The writing was pretty much on the wall in that case. They were going to win damages for the Murdoch family. Then we started finding about Alec Murdoch's dependency on opiates. And the fact that he was running through as much as $50,000 a week in opiates. Now, do I believe that Alec Murdoch was taking 50 grand worth of opiates a week? No. The amount of opiates that would get you, even at street value, would kill you. So there are absolutely thoughts that maybe there is something more nefarious here, right? Potentially drug dealing, maybe cartels being involved. He's got connections that would set him up to be in that position, et cetera, et cetera. Then Paul and Maggie are killed at the Moselle property. And I'm going to tell you that there are two things that got Alec Murdaugh convicted. I'll say three things. Number one, the video that Paul took at the kennel. When the cops arrived at the scene of the murders, there were friends and family of the Murdaughs all over the place, contaminating the crime scene. Now, when I say this, let me preface all of this with, I ain't a cop, I ain't a lawyer, I ain't a judge. I did watch a lot of CSI Miami back in the day.
And if you thought he was, you might be on a caffeine euphoria trip.
Caffeine-induced euphoria. I'm not a cop. I've talked to him lots of times. I've done ride-alongs lots of times. Step one, you get to a murder scene is to what? Lock the murder scene down. Preserve the scene as best you can. When the cops got there, there were Murdaugh friends and family all over the place. You don't know how contaminated that crime scene might have gotten at the time. And Alec Murdaugh told investigators that he was not at the kennels. He was down at the house, taking a nap. Then he got up and he got ready to drive 20 minutes to go see his mom in Alameda, who suffered from dementia after 9 o'clock at night. And he held on to that story for like a year and a couple of months until some forensic analysis done on Paul's cell phone showed a video that Paul recorded with the intent to send to the friend who was the owner of the dog that Paul was looking after, of an injury to the tail of the dog. And in that video, you can hear Alec Murdaugh talking. And multiple people confirmed that it was Alec Murdaugh talking. And all of a sudden, Alec Murdaugh had to change the story. I think that was the biggest domino that fell. Because had Murdaugh said that night, right? I did talk to a defense attorney about this. Had Alec Murdaugh told investigators that night, I was up at the house asleep, and then came out a day or two later and's like, hey, I lied. I knew you guys were going to consider me the prime suspect, and I didn't do it, but I was not at the house. I was down here at the kennels. I left before the murders happened, though. Then the defense attorney could have argued, yeah, he was there, but he left. He told you that. But he carried that lie up until direct evidence proved that he was lying. You stack that on top of the 2 days, about a day and a half of which was state prosecutors proving over and over and over that Alec Murdaugh had no problem lying to his own family, his own friends. He lied to a pair of teenage girls who lost their parents in a car accident, stole money from them. He lied to a young man who became a quadriplegic as a result of a car accident, stole money from him. He stole money from his own friends. He stole money from his law firm, and he lied to everybody about it. So the state did a phenomenal job of showing the jury that Alec Murdaugh is a criminal serial liar, which meant that everything that he offered up in his defense had to be taken not with a grain, but with the entire shaker of salt at that point. And then they proved that he lied within his own alibi. I got no reason to believe anything else that you say about your alibi for the night. The second thing that convicted him was further brought up by technology. It was the OnStar records about the travel of his vehicle that night, and it was the GPS tracker on his own cell phone. Alec Murdaugh went back to the house after he left the kennels and is tracked after the time the murders were pinned down to, roughly, was tracked taking something to the tune of 380 steps around the property at Moselle before he left to go see his mom. That ends up being, based on a man his size, about 6'4", ends up being something like 310 yards, 3 football fields in about 20 minutes. If I'm walking 3 football fields, I'm doing something, right? There's something happening. So he goes back to the house. He's walking like 380 steps. It's something like 300 yards or just shy of it. after he gets back to the house. And that probably even could be excusable, except they also were able to go back the past few weeks and look at his GPS activity. And he never did that. Certainly not at 9 o'clock on any other night, but this time he did. Then you take into consideration that both weapons used in the murders were missing. The clothes that he was wearing the night of the murders when he was at the kennels were missing. And you've got the fact that he went to his mom's house, who has dementia, by the way, and was asleep. He said that at 4, 8, whatever it was at night, was there for 15, 20 minutes and then came back. And then later on asked the carekeeper at his mom's house, hey, remember I was there for like 45 minutes? And she was like, no, he wasn't. I can say under oath, he was not there 45 minutes. He was there 15, 20, and then he left. Everything he said in his alibi was a lie. And then when he tried it was the armed vigilantes, probably about Paul's murder, boating investigation. Again, circumstantial evidence. But how many murderers do you think go to the scene where they intend to do a murder and just hope that they find some guns there, even if they were friends in the Murdaugh and knew the Murdaughs had guns at the property? You know the Murdaughs have guns at the property, right? If you roll up to commit a murder and try to get a gun at a house of known hunters with guns, probably gonna have a bad time. I don't assume anybody who wanted to commit a murder was gonna show up without already owning the murder weapons, or at least having them on them, right? So does it make sense that two vigilantes show at the property? By the way, unless they were directly connected to Alec, Maggie, or Paul, knowing that Paul and Maggie would be at the kennels but not Alec, and then anticipate being able to find, gain access to, and utilize weapons belonging to the family, and then ditch the weapons afterwards? No, right? So I've gotten hit a bunch of times with, well, Rob, all of that is circumstantial evidence, and that is correct. And again, I'm not an attorney nor a judge, right? But with all the circumstantial evidence is still evidence. It does come with a higher need to be proven as part of the case than hard evidence, right? Your fingerprint on the gun is direct hard evidence. You being the only one with access to the gun and the gun's going missing, and you being the ones who knew where the guns were before and after the murder, that's all circumstantial. But in this case, there was a timeline that prosecutors had to fill out about the night of the murder. And you got to fill that timeline with hard evidence and circumstantial evidence. There was a bunch of hard evidence, but there were some big gaps left. And there was so much overwhelming circumstantial evidence that did not, and that's the key, it did not butt against each other, right? There wasn't some circumstantial evidence over here that said X and then some more over here that also kind of fit the crime, but it said Y, and those two things don't mesh. It all laid in line with each other to fill in that timeline that prosecutors were trying to show about the story. When you combine that with the prosecution doing an excellent job of proving that Alec Murdaugh was definitely a liar and a criminal, a self-admitted liar and criminal, who was also a drug-dependent addict, who was also willing to, at least financially, grievously injure his own family and friends. So I've given you a ton of reasons to actively distrust the man. So everything he said in his defense holds no water anymore. Then I overload you with hard and circumstantial evidence that fills in the timeline without butting heads and overlapping each other. When they rested their case, when the prosecution rested their case 2 days ago, and then I watched the defense make their final arguments yesterday, and then the state got a rebuttal. And by the way, since I've been asked a couple of times, why did the state get a second closing statement? It is because the state has the burden of proof, not the defense, right? We've talked about this before. If someone is trying to prove a point, the burden of proof is on them. I don't have to ask you to prove to me that leprechauns don't exist. You have to prove that they do, right? So the defense does not have to prove the murder did not happen. The state has to prove that it did. And so because they have the burden of proof, they got the opportunity for one final argument against what the defense said in their closing statement. And I thought that, what's his name, Meter, the guy who was basically brought in as the closer, I thought he did a phenomenal job of, here's the timeline. Here's the evidence that fills that timeline. Here's the proof that Alec Murdaugh had no qualms about constantly hurting people, maybe not physically, but no qualms about hurting people financially and emotionally in order to achieve what he wanted to achieve. So you don't have a reason to believe his defense. And the only thing he had against all this evidence is his own personal defense. Nobody else came to the aid of Alec Murdaugh to say, he was with me, he wouldn't have done this, et cetera, et cetera. When they rested that case yesterday and they went to jury deliberations, I went from the first 5 weeks of the case thinking this is a hung jury case, right? There's enough reasonable doubt here to get one juror to go, I can't put away a man for potentially life without having an answer to this specific thing. That's enough reason about to hang one juror. I did find it very interesting that there was a replacement juror filled in the day of the last day of the court. And the only person who objected to it was the defense attorney, which makes me think that if there was one person they kind of thought was going to be the juror that hung the thing, it was that one, and they got bumped and they knew where they were in trouble. But when they went into deliberations, by the time that the state rested its case, I had been won over, right? I had been won over into going, I would vote guilty on this. And I told the lady friend, I said, we're gonna get a decision probably late tomorrow afternoon, late Friday afternoon. Hour and 50 minutes later, it broke that we had a verdict. And I looked at her and went, he's guilty. Both charges and all of the extra charges attached. He's guilty. I don't see a way that he's out of this. And sure enough, they came out and it was quick. It was quick. So I did a live last night and I had a guy that said, well, it could have been cartel related. It could have been drug dealer related. Buster could have been involved. I absolutely think Buster could have been involved. I'm not going to pin anything on him because I've got no way to prove it. He was not anywhere near the scene of the crime the night that it happened. And he's got an alibi for that. But if you were going to use drug cartels as a defense, probably would have been a good idea for the defense attorneys to, pump that up as a theory. Right? The defense attorneys could at any point prop up any theory and go, hey, look, Alec Murdaugh had a problem. 50K of opiates a week, right? 50K is more than a lot of us make in a year, and he was spending that a week in opiates. Alec Murdaugh had trouble with drug dealers. He had trouble with the cartel, whatever. Now, maybe he didn't do that because he knows if he would have mentioned the cartel as a problem, the cartel comes after him after the trial is over, or more importantly, comes after his family, and he didn't want to do that. And that's fine. That's his choice. But if they wanted to prop up that theory, they could have provided at least some little bit of evidence to show that that was a valid, reasonable theory that stood on its own as much as the theory that Murdaugh did it himself, and they didn't do that. So you can say, well, maybe it was cartel related, and that's fine, but the defense never provided that as a viable, reasonable alternative theory, so therefore the jury couldn't just go, well, I think our cartel might have. They had no reason to believe that, right? So I think when all this was said and done, it basically came down to technology won this case and Paul Murdaugh solved his own murder. The kennel video not only pinned Alec Murdaugh at the scene of the crime, but it also proved that he lied to investigators for multiple months on end about his alibi. The steps around the house at a point in time where multiple sets of clothing and both murder weapons went missing. By the way, clothes and murder weapons both directly owned by the Murdaugh family, by Alec Murdaugh. Clothes and weapons went missing at the same time when Alec Murdaugh was making hundreds of yards of steps around the property. Maggie's phone was found off the property at the same path that he left in his Suburban to go to his mom's house. And all of that was corroborated by technology, by searching through Alec Murdaugh's technology. Without any of that, Murdaugh walks. If this crime happens 10 years ago, Alec Murdaugh walks. But because it happened now, and unless you are just absolutely locking yourself down, Your phone can count down to the step, how many steps you took, when and where, how fast your car was going, where it was going. Your phone, when you hold it upright and then you turn it sideways and switch it from portrait to landscape and back, your phone records that in its metadata. At 9:06 and 32 seconds, this phone turned sideways to go to landscape, then it turned back into portrait. They were able to look through all of that, see all that, find all that, and tie it all together. I don't think there was any option but to find him guilty. But that's just me. If you got any thoughts on it, let me know, 71307. But also, I would tell you, I did a full live on this last night, which you can go to the Fan Upstate's Twitter or Facebook page. Watch that live I did last night, kind of an expanded version of what I just did, and leave your thoughts. I love talking about this kind of stuff. It's absolutely fascinating. Terrible story, tragic story, fascinating to talk about, though. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get some Twitter trending topics. We'll call it a day. We'll talk a little bit with Alex and Phoenix on the stream. You guys can introduce yourself to them. We'll see if they want to test their chops at a little sports talk radio. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. This is the Fan Upstate.
from hearing about something so much
Yeah, there's
to
fatigue
the
for
point.
anything.
Yeah. That's the word, fatigue.
But again, like that's why I wasn't updating you over 6 weeks of the trial. I was like, let me get to the end, and then I'll just kind of lay my thoughts all down at once.
Yeah, you've done pretty well because I knew you were really into it the
I've
whole
been
time.
chomping at the bit to get into it because again, it's horrifying but wildly fascinating. But anyway, there you go. There's
And
my
also
thoughts.
let you know, sometimes you just don't know. You may see somebody and think, oh, they're normal. Although
Yeah.
from what I understand, it's probably not how they
Yeah,
looked at him.
I've told you
but-
I've told you guys the story of the guy I used to work with the old radio station that I thought was a dear friend who stole money straight up from me while smiling and giving me hugs every single day. I think that's what makes this so intriguing is you think you know people and sometimes you just don't. Sometimes, and the scariest ones are the guy like him who are just, he was described how many times as charming and kind and compassionate and all that. And nope. And it's horrifying. We say we jump into that thing we do to end the show early.
Yeah, because no one knows the evil that dwells in some man's heart except for them.
You shouldn't lower your voice when you say that.
Why? Because I'm telling you, don't say evil loud. You got to say evil low.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter Trending Topics.
All right, time for Twitter Trending Topics, where I tell Rob what is trending, and he will tell the entire world, the galaxy, possibly other dimensions, why it's trending. The first thing that's trending is Ethan Hawke. This is a recent trend, so I don't know if you know why.
I have no idea why.
This is kind of weird. Ethan Hawke is trending because he's featured on a track on the newest Fall Out Boy project.
Really?
Yes. Of course, it just dropped, so I'm talking about the tweet.
Ethan Hawke, of course, one half of the dynamic duo that made up one of my favorite movies of all time, Training Day, which if you've never seen Training Day, that movie is beyond incredible, and Ethan Hawke is fantastic.
He was also the bad guy in Moon Knight.
Also correct,
and
did a great job.
And his daughter is one of the stars of Stranger Things.
There you go.
So I mean, there you
But
go.
also go watch Training Day.
All right,
It's unbelievable.
the next thing that's be of an age to watch that. All right, the next thing that's trending is Travis Kelce.
So Travis Kelce hosted SNL or is hosting SNL this Saturday. Alonzo, let's put odds on it. Plus 110 that Jason shows up on the show.
Oh, he's showing up. The question is Patrick Mahomes showing up?
That's a great question.
Or can they get the big
Can they get
guy?
Andy Reid to
Can
show
they
up?
get Andy Reid to show
I
up?
did laugh yesterday. Because
I popped into the DVR and recorded. I haven't watched Saturday Night Live in a long time. But I got to watch this and see how Travis does. I got to see how he
Kelce's are
does.
hilarious. I did laugh yesterday because the NFLPA report cards, the Chiefs ranked 29th, and one of the places they failed was on team travel. And somebody said, well, if Andy Reid would stop drawing mustaches on the players, they'd probably up their grade a little bit.
Oh, that's great. That is absolutely great. All right, the next thing that's trending is Alonso.
Well, that's not you.
No, because I'm the Alonso. I'm not Alonso.
Alonso.
Yeah, Alonso is
Like
trending.
morning?
No. I made sure I emphasize the S. Alonso.
Alonso.
He's trending because he's an open-wheeled racing guy. I don't know. I mean, it was trending.
We better find out.
I don't think that he died or anything.
Well, let's ask the sports kids over here. Y'all know who we were talking about? No. Okay, perfect.
Okay, it's
If
open
they don't-
wheel.
If they don't,
Yeah,
then I don't
open
feel
wheel
bad.
and NASCAR are a little bit different. All right. Anytime I can emphasize why I'm the and everybody else in the station has suddenly put these on their names, but they don't have a story behind it like I do. All right. The next thing that's trending is Lacey Evans.
Oof. So Lacey decided
Should I say our friend or are you distancing?
I'm gonna have to distance from.
Let's face it.
Acquaintance of the
Let's
show.
face it. When she was on the show, she was full on heels,
She
so
was.
it wasn't like
I don't have any
yeah.
problem with the kayfabe. The problem is she put up a thing that said how to fix 99% of anxiety and depression. Exercise hard, eat clean, put purpose over pleasure, make a lot more money. Oh, why didn't I think of that, Lacey? Why didn't I ever think, you know what I should do to feel better? I should just make more money. Super Lacey.
So-
you're a genius, you Einsteinian level brilliant mind.
I think most of us know it's a work.
I don't think it is.
It's a work. It's a
I
work.
genuinely don't think it
It's
is.
a work. She has it goes with the character that she's on right now. She's getting play on Twitter. It's a work. It absolutely is a work.
I don't know, man. I hope that it is. But the advice of Have you just thought about trying not being depressed as a solution?
By
to
the way,
depression?
she is kind of right. I mean,
No,
you know,
she is
no.
absolutely not.
No, she is kind of. If you're not anymore, it's because you stopped being. I mean, however you get there that's
Ladies and gentlemen, and I'm saying this very sincerely, if you are suffering from depression, which is a real
get some help.
disease,
Get some help. Talk to
please
somebody.
get help. Don't read dumbass takes like, we're just trying making more money.
Here's what I can't believe. I can't believe that Rob just got worked and
Work
played right
yourself
into
a
it.
Shoot, brother.
You just worked right into it. The last thing that's trending is #Falcons.
LOL. They admitted that they're good with Desmond Ritter.
No,
No?
they're trending because according to Ian Rappaport, they are really looking into moving up to number 1.
There you go. I told you. The price the Panthers have to pay.
Everybody wants it. Panthers going to do it.
The price the Panthers have to pay is too damn high.
I hope you lose tomorrow, John Jones.
We'll have the breakdown on Monday or Thursday for Fight Club. We'll see. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for us. Stay, if you're on the stream, stick around because we're going to let Alex and Phoenix turn it loose here for just a minute and test their broadcasting chops. For the rest of you guys, have a great weekend. Follow me on Twitter at The Rob Brown Show. I'll be live from South Carolina v. Clemson baseball tomorrow at Fluor Field. If you see me, come say hi. Have a lovely weekend. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. See you back here Monday on The Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Later, brother. Oxygen. All right, let's see. Texter says, Fernando Alonso, former F1 champion, is fastest in practice at the first F1 race of the season happening this weekend. Practice was this morning. Mike says, great show, fellas. Thanks, Mike. Texter said, the problem is if this wasn't a prominent person in the community and this happened, it would have been covered very little. Probably accurate on the Murdoch thing, but here's why that's interesting. Because, and I agree with that, but because of how prominent he was in the community, how prominent his family was in the community, the fact that he got tried at all goes against what has been historically true for people of not just positions of power, but positions of power within the legal system in Southern tight-knit communities like this one. So the fact that not just that he was tried, but that he was actually convicted and sentenced.
I thought it said his father and grandfather and stuff, 4 generations were prosecutors.
And solicitors general in that area, which is the people who decide what charges you're ultimately facing. So that's it. Like the fact that, in fact, one of the interesting things in this trial from the beginning is that the solicitor general who initially was given this case was dear friends with Alec Murdoch and his family. He was brought into that office by Alec's granddad and father. So everybody's like, wait. Why is the guy who was in charge of trying him his best friend? That's not cool. And he fought tooth and nail to not recuse himself. And he did not recuse himself until the documentary started dropping and everyone outside the country was like, yo, like that's some small town BS right there. So the fact that they got him recused, brought in a DA who was willing to actually go after this, brought in prosecutors who did not care about his family name, and got a jury of citizens from the community that the Murdoch family had effectively run for 110 years to then convict him. That is a huge flip of what the power structure in that community is. That's why this was a story. If this was just some
really
dude.
only feel bad for his one kid that's left because he's going to have to.
Yeah, the Paul kid, listen, Paul was not clean. Paul was not a great dude. Does not mean the dude deserved to get shot in the face, right? Doesn't deserve. Certainly Maggie. Maggie, I think, was probably not directly involved, but I'm sure she turned her eyes away from some of Alec Murdoch's discretions over the years. But she didn't deserve to die over it.
I bet you she was going to divorce him.
That
was going to come to light. She was going to take a lot of whatever.
She was going to take whatever was left after the civil boat case went through, which wouldn't have been much, but it would have gone to her. Now, Buster is financially going to be fine because his granddad left him a trust fund of like $4.5 million and was structured in a way that the state can't take any of it. So Buster can effectively change his name, move to the other side of the country, have a few $1 million in the bank, and never be seen again.
I think they said Alex, either granddad or something, either taught some of the legal stuff for one of the guys on the prosecuting attorney team. Did you see that?
Yeah. And that's it, right? Like the reason this is a story is not because he's a prominent figure in the community. The reason that it's a story is because his family has effectively run the legal system in that county for 100 years. And they were able to convict a guy that most of us thought was going to get at the worst hung jury because all it took was one juror who was a friend of the family that the prosecutors didn't find out during jury selection, and he walks. And the fact that he didn't walk is a flip of the power structure. So let me do this. Let me spin this camera a little bit. I'm going to have you guys move these mics to where we can kind of see on the camera just a little bit. I'm gonna
Give me a
have to do that
second.
as
I'll
well.
turn it down. I got to wait till
Yeah, for sure.
automation takes over.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
So this is still the Rob Brown show when we're going on air?
Yeah, so all we're doing is taking the same stream that we just did the show on, and we're just keeping it live.
Okay.
So every now and then, like on real big sports days, like when we get to the draft, when we get to the Super Bowl, when there's like a big thing, we'll do what we call the Rob Brown Show, either podcast edition where we'll record it, or we'll do the live stream edition where we'll just keep ourselves live for a minute or an hour or whatever after the show. And the stream lets you do things you can't do on the radio. It lets you go longer without taking a break, right? So you guys heard some of the segments where we'd be like right to a good part in the conversation. Then I got to go to a break because that's what we just have to do, play advertisements. With a stream, we can go as long as we want. I don't take advantage of this. I might again in the future, but like the stream does not have restrictions as far as what you can and can't say. There's things I cannot say on the air legally, but on the stream, I can say whatever I want. So it gives you that advantage. It gives you the advantage, obviously, of being more interactive with your listeners, right? Like I can't you saw how many comments were coming in. I can't read and react to every one of those when I'm on the radio, but on the stream, not only can I, but like, for instance, I can bring up a comment onto the stream, right? And we can let that person be a part of the stream. The other thing that I can do on the stream, we didn't do it today, we did it yesterday, but I can invite people to come in here from anywhere they want, and I can bring them up on the stream and they can host the show with me. So like if you guys were at the house, I could pop one of you up on a webcam and a microphone, and we would go to
Yeah, to that end, we've had special guests like wrestlers or athletes or things like that on StreamYard and actually bring them up. So not only are they on the air, but they're on the stream, and then you can actually see them while you're interviewing them.
So like I can switch to this, and you can't really see it now. Can't see it now, but so there's a box there and a box there and a box there. So I could have all three of those boxes filled. And I think we can go up to as many as 8 people at a time.
I think the most I've had is 7.
7?
Yeah.
Cool. So the stream lets you kind of be a little bit more
Almost like
open and
webinar.
It's exactly what it is. It's a Zoom meeting, but based on with the software that we have, we can send it to 8 different destinations at once. So like I said earlier, it is streaming right now on the radio station's Facebook page, Twitter page, and YouTube page. It is streaming on my show's YouTube page, Facebook page, and Twitter page. It's streaming on Lonzo's Facebook page.
No, it's not. You took it off mine, or it dropped off mine.
Oh, it dropped yours, and it dropped the. We also stream it to a thing it's called Bright Cove, but it's basically the company has.
And I hope I didn't get.
You didn't. You didn't. I know for a fact you didn't because it's streaming to mine, and if yours did, mine would have too. I promise you didn't.
Yeah, but it could have been because of. No.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's
yeah.
on you. I can't help you with that. That would be on you.
Yeah.
So we have a thing we call Bright Cove, and it basically receives our stream and it records it and it blocks it into a database. And then I can go in there and I can cut clips out of it. So I can make short clips that we put on like Instagram Reels or TikTok or whatever. And that way I don't have to. Now I can do it with like Adobe Rush where I can make them a little more fancy. But Bright Cove basically for the company logs every stream that we do. So I can go into Bright Cove and pull up any stream from any date, go to any specific segment we did, clip out of that. Yeah. So, all right. Phoenix, you wanted to talk NHL trade deadline. You're up, big dog. Get all up on that mic.
Yeah,
brother.
you got to
Keep
get
that
on the mic, and you need to talk louder. You can move the mic. You can touch it.
Move
It's
the mic
okay.
towards you. Move
It's
yourself
okay.
towards the mic.
Move it up closer to your mouth.
All right, here. Let me start with a question for you. And let's see. I'm going to throw you a curveball here. I thought the Predators were going to be buyers. Instead, they shipped out a lot. Why did the Predators go against what most Predators fan thought was going to be the schedule of bumping the team up? Why did they decide to become trade deadline sellers?
I don't know. That's probably really a good question. All I know with from what I saw with the Nashville Predators was that Nino Niederreiter went to the Winnipeg Jets this past week in the NHL trade deadline. Speaking of NHL trades, a lot of big stuff has happened this week, and I mean big stuff, concluding one of Showtime, 3-time Stanley Cup champion, Chicago Blackhawks legend Patrick Kane getting traded to the New York Rangers.
And had a crap first game, by the way.
Yep, lost to Ottawa, I believe it was, 5-3, as I just saw there earlier. That's not really the best performance I've seen for coming to a new team. Jonathan Quick, Los Angeles goalie, got traded. He went to Columbus.
Which, by the way, what A and B, the Kings put up a social media post that was like, it was just like, thank you. And like, that was it. That's jacked up, right?
Yeah.
That's messed up. That dude's a legend.
Yeah. So he went literally to the Blue Jackets for a day. And then now he went, now he's a Vegas Golden Knight. So that is the quickest trade I've ever seen.
Vegas is way more fun anyway.
Yep. True. Alex, you want to say anything about the NHL trade deadline?
No, not that I know of.
Tip 1 from Rob Brown. Shaking your head no on the radio makes it hard to hear what you're saying. I'm playing with
That
you.
makes sense.
Let's see.
He's looking at himself on the screen.
That's fair.
Yeah. I don't blame
So
him.
Josh, one of our listeners, Josh said, great show, dudes. Question for the guys. What is their favorite sport and what about that sport makes them love it? Alex, you're up.
All right. I love hockey. That's my sport. I like a lot of stuff about it. Like when I'm skating down the ice with the puck and I'm like deking through everybody, the rush is.
You play?
Yeah.
And I think you play too, right?
Yeah.
So how long have you been playing?
I've been playing 7 years.
7 years. So you've been playing since you were 2.
He's been playing since
I'm kidding.
So you've been playing since you were 7.
Yeah.
Still 7
It was a
being out on
joke.
the ice.
Yeah, no, I listen, I'm 38 and I'm terrified of putting on skates. I can skate. That's not true. I can. I just wouldn't play hockey because I would get checked into a wall and turn into a dust cloud.
By the way, I am 54. I would love to slam someone into a glass.
That's why I
just
certainly
just
won't play
one
with
time.
Alonzo.
Just one time. Just go as fast as I can.
I need to bring you on the ice at Greenville one day.
I might hurt my sciatica.
So like, where are you from here originally?
No.
You're not. Where from?
I'm from New Mexico.
New Mexico. That is less hockey than than
Yes, it
South
is.
Carolina.
Yeah.
How did you end up getting into hockey then?
So I went to a few like lower games like AHL,
Okay.
and I saw it and I thought it was so cool. And I
You're
was
like, that looks dope. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Respect. Big time.
Well, that's something you never told me. You're from New Mexico. Lord.
We're learning new things here, ladies and gentlemen.
We all are. Yes.
What about you? How did you get into it?
I just started watching a lot of YouTube videos.
How do you feel about the Paul brothers?
Paul Brothers. Don't know who that is.
Okay, good. I feel better.
That does
We'll
not.
come back to that. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
That's all right,
Okay.
we'll come back
All
to that.
right.
But
So you're watching YouTube videos.
yeah, I was watching YouTube videos and I was watching a lot of inline hockey, and then for several years since like 2017, I've been coming to Swamp Rabbits games.
How you feel about the announcer? Good answer. Good
Okay.
answer.
That's the kind
I'm
of answer
clearly
we
doing a great
expected
job.
for
Okay.
sure.
But yeah, and then I started getting into hockey, and then this past year, I just got on a team. I got on the junior team, and tomorrow my season actually ends with a full ice game.
Okay.
10 in the morning. So
Phoenix, by the way, is also on the cleanup crew at Rabbits. Well,
Yeah.
game by game on the cleanup crew. So if you come to Swamp Rabbits games, you'll occasionally see him skating out there to clean up the ice. Luke wants to know from both of you guys, obviously me and Lonzo excluded, who's your favorite broadcaster? Do you have one?
like any.
Any broadcast you want. Could be TV, could be
Hello?
radio, YouTube. And it doesn't have to be sports.
I'm gonna have to go with Mike Joy from NASCAR.
Oh, Mike, my guy. I did not expect a Mike Joy out of you guys.
Alex, who's yours?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't actually know.
You got pick one. You're on the radio. You got to have an opinion. Rule 1 of radio: always have an opinion.
Like a YouTuber.
Doesn't matter.
Maybe Pavel Barber. He's
Who's
pretty
that?
Okay, that's
cool.
fair.
He does hockey on YouTube.
Okay,
I'd probably go with Nasher.
I like it. Trey said, I officially know more about the NHL today than I did yesterday. Tell those guys, great job. Who is your NHL team?
Carolina Hurricanes.
Got to be.
Toronto Maple Leafs.
Toronto,
Yeah.
from New Mexico, started playing hockey, moved to South Carolina, and is a Toronto guy. Why?
I really like God, I'm having a brain fire.
You're good. It happens to me literally every day.
Yeah, don't be nervous
Every
talking
day.
to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Like
Austin
particular player
Matthews.
you followed there?
Yeah, I like Austin Matthews.
Okay.
A lot.
Okay. Favorite player in the league?
Yeah.
I'd probably favorite player in the league.
Yeah.
I think I might have to go with Connor McDavid.
Connor McDavid. That's a good pick.
So back to the NHL trade deadline.
My dude, we're talking about what I want to talk about.
But
He's a future
actually-
Rob Brown.
Oh wait,
Lonzo.
hold on. Not the NHL trade deadline. Let's move to the NHL draft real quick. I know that's probably a long ways away, but I got a good idea.
Keep going. I'm gonna kick my feet up because I
Oh,
got
Lord.
nothing.
Okay.
I got nothing.
So how do you think Connor Bedard's gonna perform after he gets drafted by whoever's gonna draft him?
Well, he is a really good skater, but he's pretty small, and I don't know. I think he might do well.
Yeah, I mean, first overall projected draft pick in the NHL draft this year. I think maybe Chicago might try to go for him because they just lost Kaner this past Tuesday, and then they lost Max Domi like yesterday. So I think they'll try to go for him, which would
Yeah.
probably be a good thing for Chicago.
Yeah, I think that would give him a big boost
Yeah,
in the season.
yeah.
Stanley Cup favorites this year. Go.
Oof. Not New York Rangers. Sorry for all the New York Ranger fans out there. Anyways,
Listen to
favorite?
him, Lonzo. Step one in his answer is to troll an entire fan base.
Sounds familiar to me.
Stanley Cup favorites. I might have to go with either Boston or Carolina.
I Carolina. Do they have longevity to make it through a long series though? Because they go on streaks, right?
Yes, we do go on streaks.
You worried about that?
Last year we did lose to the New York Rangers in round 2. And now that they have Patrick Kane on their line and Artemi Panarin, that I think that's gonna affect the Metropolitan Division, and that's basically just gonna control the playoffs.
Lonzo, if you asked me if I knew what division any hockey team was in, I would have to say no.
I don't know. So I mean,
So when let's talk about Kane for a second. In football, if a guy moves from a team to a team, there's always a learning curve because no two teams are going to run a similar system, right? Now, there are a bunch of teams that run a West Coast, but they're all going to have different iterations of the West Coast. There are some that are going to run a more traditional NFL pro set, but they might lean heavier on the run than the pass, etc. With hockey, obviously, it's a lot more fluid. It's a lot more constant. Do you think Kane will have a learning curve, especially being further along in his career, a little more seasoned citizen as a player? Do you think he's got the ability to pick up a new system, to develop chemistry, and to make them a threat by the time the season comes to an end?
For sure. I know that they're going to probably become a threat because Artemi Panarin and Patrick Kane just got reunited this past Tuesday. As we said earlier, they did lose their first game last night in Kane's debut against Ottawa. So, and I think that against Carolina, that's going to be a good matchup to watch for this season in the playoffs. Alex?
Yeah, I think he might pick that up before the end of the season. He's a very good team worker.
Yeah. 3-time Stanley Cup champion. So,
Yeah.
Minor detail, right? All right. Last question before we get off the stream here. Steven said, if you had to choose one sport to play and hockey's off the table, what would you choose? And why do I want to start watching hockey now? So you've earned a fan already. Outside of hockey, what's the next sport on your priority list?
basketball,
Yeah, I would definitely say basketball.
college or NBA?
college.
College ball?
Yep.
Who you got in the Final Four? Give me one team.
North Carolina.
One team. North Carolina. Get out. They're on the bubble, dude. They're not even
Not
the
this
best
year.
in the conference. No, I'm saying this year. You got a team this year you like?
This year?
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Even though I'm a young man, I might have to go with USC's South Carolina women's team.
When in doubt.
Go with number one. I mean, you know,
Why not?
number
Why
one
not?
ranked team for the last
Number one
couple
sport
years.
outside of hockey.
Ooh, basketball.
Basketball too? Pro or college?
Probably pro.
Probably pro. Best player in the NBA right now.
Ooh.
There's
LeBron
only one
James.
answer.
LeBron James.
No, that's not the right.
Steph
I'm a huge
Curry.
LeBron guy. He's
Steph
not.
Curry,
I'm talking
Steph
today,
Curry,
right now.
obviously.
It is not Steph Curry either. Lonzo hates Steph. I love Steph, but it ain't the best player in the league.
Stuff is just he chews on his binky all day. It's annoying. Then when he gets mad, he throws it into the crowd.
It's not LeBron.
Do not say.
Obviously,
Don't,
Michael Jordan.
yeah. No, don't
Today.
say who he wants you to say. He wants you to say Kevin Durant.
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Oh,
Kevin
There's
Durant.
one player I
No.
take over Kevin Durant. Only one, but one player I take over Durant.
Giannis.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, the beast.
I was
That's the
waiting
dude.
to see if you were waiting for Zion, and there'll be all
I
kinds
wish-
of things that go along with that.
I freaking wish Zion would be the best player in the league.
No.
I wish Zion was the best player on the bench in my time. I'm a Pelicans fan, and I'm over Zion.
He just wishes he would play.
I just wish he
That's
would
all.
play.
Yeah.
We went from number one in the West to maybe we'll get in the play-in tournament. All right. Anything you want to say to sign off? Let him hear it.
Not really. Just take it away, Rob.
Sir, this is your opportunity to say something into a microphone.
Do not
Say something
pressure
history.
people. I mean, come
This is
on.
your chance to make an impression with the sports fans of the upstate.
If you want to get some anger out, just play hockey.
Love it. Alex,
That's a good quote.
Best quote ever.
add something.
Best color man in the business.
Just.
Oh, I got a good one. I got a good one. So the other day, the teacher came in.
Oh, we got story time with Phoenix.
Okay, we're just gonna say this. The teacher says fighting's not the best, right? But my hockey coach says it is. I'm gonna go with my hockey coach.
I like it. I like it.
That's actually what Alex said, not me. He said
That's
that last
informed.
night.
Yeah,
All right. Thanks for coming by, guys.
You're
Say
welcome.
adios to the people.
Adios, guys.
Bye.
Later. See you guys Monday. Have a great weekend.